Meeting, please come to order. Chairman apologizes for being late. Barbara, please call the roll.
We have Commissioners Berard, Fleming, Funderburk, Levine, and Noonan present.
Thank you. I have no opening remarks. On the agenda before all other remarks is item 24. Who is presenting the resolution honoring John Dennis?
So I thought I'd do this up here with John at my side. You can poke me if I say anything that is incorrect or embarrassing. But we're here to recognize John Dennis for 34 years of exemplary service to the Department of Water and Power, but most importantly to the citizens of Los Angeles, because that's what we're here for. And so I brought his rap sheet. This is literally 2 pages long. I'm just going to take a few highlights out of this. But John has led our Resource Planning and Development Division twice. He's led our Engineering Services Division, and you may not know this, he led our Supply Chain Services group. And so while he's led some major organizations for the power system, it's really the accomplishments that I think that are really important to highlight. So I'm just going to name a few, and I just picked a few that I was interested in. You may have a few more. But one of the things that John did when he became Director of Planning and Development, he was instrumental in getting us to 20% RPS and starting that process and that heavy lift to get there in 2010. It was a phenomenal effort by many, many people in that division, and John led that. He then had to come back and get us to 25%, which is what he's doing now, and for this year, it's another major accomplishment because it's really beyond 25 and looking for the future. And so he's led that team. The other major accomplishment I wanted to highlight was the 2010 Integrated Resource Plan. We've had integrated resource plans in the past. Engineers developed them. We talked about them internally. We put them on the shelf. But he led the effort through the City of Los Angeles on the most comprehensive stakeholder process that we've ever had at that time to really pull in so many different interest groups and find that balanced integrated resource plan, which was so important to move us forward on our projects. The reason that I think this board and our council felt comfortable approving projects because of that tremendous stakeholder effort. I know he made me live through that, so thanks, John. But he led that effort, and I think that's something to be proud of. And now when we see stakeholder meetings, now you get to do 60 meetings, and the next time will be 100 meetings in 5 years. But we really set a standard on how we work with people, and John was part of that. He also led the Y2K effort, and I don't know if everyone in the room remembers that. We thought the world was going to end with our computer systems when 000 clicked over and everything was going to stop. So John led the Department of Water and Power team for a couple of years to get that organized, ready to go, and nothing happened, John. So I don't know what you're doing for 2 years, but I was waiting at midnight in the control center for something to happen. I guess that means you just did a good job. So yeah. And then John, another significant accomplishment was being part of the harbor repowering. He was the startup engineer out there. We competed against that. I lost it. He won that. So you get to drive the miles and work the overtime. But it was a major accomplishment for our engineers to design, implement, and start that project up, which set the stage for future repowerings as we move forward. I'll mention that John worked in the water system for 5 years, so he stole him away from us. But we got him back, Marty. Just want to let you know he came home. So
we'll never forgive you.
Anyway, so back to the rap sheet here. As I was going through the rap sheet, I saw that he started as a student engineer in 1982, and he was terminated in 1982 in July. And there's a reason for that, and that's because of his wife, Jan, who will show a picture. She couldn't be here because she is a kindergarten teacher, and the screen's there. We're working on it. But Jan, his wife, he had to be terminated as a student engineer so he could get married to Jan in 1982. And so he was able to get married, had a very, very short honeymoon, and then we brought him back again as a student engineer in 1982. But Jan just couldn't give up her kids today, and so she's got one last week with them, but she's here in spirit. So we wanted to show a picture of Jan and her kids. And so the last thing I wanted to mention is, while all these things are major accomplishments, John, the things that you've done, the reality is that it's not the projects that matter. Is that he left a legacy with investing in people. He's developed his management team, he's developed new engineers, and he's invested in people so that we actually have a future beyond John Dennis. That's what I'm most thankful for. Because when we invest in our people, that's what builds the legacy moving forward. And when you think back, it's the people that are going to make the difference for the time to come. And so with that, I just want to read the resolution. I know you'll present it in a second, and we'll give John, 10 seconds to respond to all this. Rebuttal. So here's the resolution. Director of Power Planning and Development is John Dennis, Director of Power Planning and Development, is retiring on June 1st, 2016 after 34 years of providing distinguished service to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. And whereas John Dennis began his career on May 24th, 1982 as a student engineer in the power system, throughout his career he promoted to increasingly more responsible positions, including field engineer, mechanical engineer, startup manager, water engineer, year 2000 project director, manager of major projects, director of supply chain services, director of power engineering, director of power planning and development. Whereas, under the leadership and management of John Dennis, the power system has made significant progress in the areas of project management, strategic planning, power design and construction, and renewable energy development. And whereas John Dennis has represented the DWP and the utility industry before multiple regulatory and legislative governing authorities, technical committees, contract negotiating teams, and community groups. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Water and Power Commissioners, on behalf of the management of the department, its employees, and the citizens of the City of Los Angeles, thank and commend John Dennis for his service as a highly dedicated, motivated, and efficiency-oriented manager with broad supervisory and management experience that extends best wishes to him for a prosperous and enjoyable retirement. Be it further resolved that a suitable copy of the resolution be presented to John Dennis in appreciation and recognition for his long and faithful service to the people of Los Angeles. That is the proposal before the board today. So, John?
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Commissioners and Marty, for Marcy there, and our executive management team and council, and Mike and many other of our managers and supervisors that are here today. I just want to say my wife, Jan, of 34 years, is teaching her kindergarten class today. And so I started working at DWP on May of 24th of 1982, and 2 months later got married. The reason I got laid off is because I was on emergency appointment. I was gone for 5 days for my honeymoon, and so they laid me off. And I was very thankful that I got hired back. Listen, my heart is just really full of gratitude today for the diverse career opportunities that were beyond my expectations as a field engineer and doing projects and working in water, power, and joint, and especially, as Mike mentioned, of all the great people we've worked with and for, and the relationships along the way, even getting out to our customers and working with them along the way. This is a little, because I'm an engineer, I get a little technical, but I just give you a little flavor of what happened in those 34 years. When I started, at our generating stations here in Los Angeles, the average emission rate of the units that where we were burning oil at the time, and the average emission rates of NOx, that contributes to the formation of smog, was over 300 parts per million in the emission rates. We converted those over to gas, and that reduced it to 150 parts per million. With our engineering efforts and such, and we worked together with operations, we were able to make some changes in those operations and bring it down to about 60 parts per million. And then in 2000, we started to retrofit our units with catalysts, and we brought those down to 15 parts per million. And today, those units that we're now putting in and replacing those old generators with, we're down to 2 parts per million as far as those emissions. So we have gone in that 34 years from 300 parts per million to 2 parts per million. And I got to say is that I'm thankful just to be a part of that. That makes breathing easier, literally, in Los Angeles. We feel the benefits of that every single day. And that's a great accomplishment for all of our people. But on top of that, we put in a fleet of generators that are more than 40% more efficient in fuel. Our greenhouse gases today are 25% below our 1990 levels. And we're at the point, as Mike indicated, we're quickly approaching 25% renewable energy, and with a path that's very clear to hit 50% of renewable energy. On each of our major projects, we have a little project charter. We post this all over our projects, and I learned about our partnering efforts. And at the conclusion of that partnering charter, there's a little statement that's made at the bottom, and I just want to read that to you. It's very pertinent as well. We finish our projects with professionally developed people, enduring friendships, a desire to work together again, and a model and standard for future power projects. We demonstrate pride in a job well done. As for the future, Jan and I are just taking a brief sabbatical before entering kind of lap number 3 in life. We have a lot of service left in our life. Jan and I have been the recipients of great mercy and grace, and it's our desire to be the dispensers of such mercy and grace as well to others. So on behalf of Jan and my children and 3 grandchildren, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for such wonderful 34 years. This is a great day, another great day to serve LA. Thank you.
I just have one question. Is there any way we can prevent him from retiring?
My wife says no.
Okay. Congratulations. Are there comments from anybody at the podium?
I've had the privilege of working alongside this gentleman for many years, and I can sincerely say that you are somebody who stands out in this organization, and we will miss you immensely and your expertise and your dedication.
Thank you.
I think that we all share that view, and I know that Christina was speaking for the entire board when she made that comment. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
I'm not going to ask who's opposed because all 5 said yes. So I guess it's picture time. Congratulations.
We left them all a copy on their desks. I forgot. So they did see the amendment. They did see your change. Oh, okay. Okay.
I was wondering why you got laid off. You explained it. Mike just mentioned it. You want to be in the picture, Dr. Webster?
Feels like old times here. You may recall last year about this time, it was this board's first opportunity to award a Recycled Water Customer of the Year. Van Nuys High School was being recognized at that time. we are now at the point to award our 2016 Recycled Water Customer of the Year, and we really could not be happier than we are to recognize the Water Replenishment District of Southern California for their Dominguez Gap seawater barrier intrusion work. And it's important that we continue to recognize people who've really stepped up and made use of recycled water, because it's these large customers that really set the stage and provide the example for others to follow as we try to offset potable water use in the city. The Water Replenishment District is responsible not just for replenishing the groundwater in the central and west coast basins, but also for various water quality improvement projects, safe drinking water programs, and monitoring, but also, very importantly, to provide what we call seawater intrusion barriers. And these are places where water is injected into the ground near the ocean, and it's to create a mound of fresh water so that as wells are pumped, it won't draw seawater in. Because if you look at stories, there were old stories of parts of the South Coast. There's been troubles everywhere in the world. I know that in the Middle East there are a number of issues where people would overpump groundwater basins many years ago, and would cause seawater intrusion. And once that seawater's in, then the water quality is ruined. And so protecting the groundwater, of which in the Central Basin we're the second largest water rights holders, is very important for us and for the future of the city and our ability to use the local water resources. So the Water Replenishment District in 2006 signed on as the largest customer out of the Terminal Island plant. This is where LA Sand is creating advanced treated recycled water, and they use 4,000 acre feet a year right now of water to inject into the barrier. So the single largest user we have of recycled water, and their use of recycled water is protecting all of our local groundwater here on the south side of the Santa Monica Mountains. And so with us today we have General Manager from WRD, Rob Whitaker, and Director Rob Catherman, and their Senior Hydrologist, Everett Ferguson, to accept the 2016 Recycled Water Customer of the Year certificate and trophy. So I'd like to introduce them.
Well, thank you very much. It's a special honor for me to be back here, not just because of our pride in the partnership we have with DWP to create locally sustainable water supplies through recycled water, but I got to cut my water teeth here on the 14th floor back in the 80s, and that makes me 38. And along with the young engineer over here that I worked with at the time, so it's a special honor for me personally to be back here. But we very much appreciate this partnership. As Mr. Adams said, it's helping us to protect the groundwater basins. These two groundwater basins that LADWP is part of provide half the water supply for 4 million residents within 43 cities. So it's not an insignificant water resource, and this project is helping us to become completely locally sustainable and eliminate our demand for imported water. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Never let a politician near an open microphone. I'm the Vice President of the Water Replenishment District Board of Directors, and I want to thank the commissioners and the staff for your help. We're in, I think, not just a drought here in California, we're in climate change, we're in a paradigm shift of how we have to provide natural resources and water to our population, and so we've got to look to local sources. Our district pumping provides about 50% now of our potable water. When we started 56 years ago, our replenishment water was all imported. Today it's less than 20%, and we hope in another 3 years with your help at the Dominguez Gap and with the project up at the Whittier Narrows, we'll import zero water for replenishment for our groundwater aquifers. So thank you for being our partner. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Get the certificate there.
All right.
Okay, very nice. Just like that. Very good. Okay, here's the first one. Good smile. Okay, here we go again. And one more.
Thank you. You have another one? Go ahead.
One more bit of good news here. So we have a fairly long-standing, for the last 6 years, a K-12 outreach program for recycled water education. And as we try to educate the youth, we always want to make sure they understand the importance of water, but also how things are changing and water supply is changing. One of our young engineers, Jennifer Valdez, actually led this effort 6 years ago and was really helping and instrumental in getting it established. Today, Darlene Trong has been the leader of this group, and just this last year alone, she visited 36 schools and spoke to over 6,000 students and faculty. To date, we've educated over 15,000 students and faculty in LAUSD, and we continue to do these outreach programs to educate kids on the water cycle, water recycling, conservation, water supply, and wastewater treatment. I have a number of members of the staff today. I'll ask to stand up and take a quick photograph in a moment. They are Darlene Trong, Austin Strauss, Anthony Tu, Christine Tran, Julian Villa, Don Cressy, Carrie McCorkle, John Lockett, Anayat Mia, Serge Haddad, Mario Acevedo, Bob Sun, Jennifer Valdez, and Walter Zeisel. All those folks have contributed to help us educate the future leaders of the city and the future residents of the city. For this program, we were recognized this year by Water Use California, the organization that spearheads water use throughout the state. They awarded us the 2016 Recycled Water Community Outreach and Public Education Program of the Year. So I'd like to recognize the staff, and this is the award that we received from that organization. So. Where's Darlene? Let the ringleader hold the award. So these are the folks that are out educating our students and teachers to make sure that everyone in the city is prepared for our water future.
Yep, we have room. Spread out a little bit. There you go, there you go. I don't want anyone hiding behind anybody. Okay, here we go. Let's see how this looks. Very nice, okay. Here's the first one, good smile. See how that looks. Here we go again. Big smile again. Okay. Okay. And one last one. Very nice, right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you for your great work.
Thank you, Marty. Do you have other
I have
comments or reports?
two last things to report, sir.
Yes.
So first of all, yesterday we had a dedication ceremony for our California-friendly garden out in front of the building. I don't know if you've had a chance, because normally you come in on a lower level, but we re-landscaped in front of the building with our landscape crews under Carlos Gomez, and the plants have established themselves, and we have a Mediterranean-style garden on one side of the moat and a Southwestern-style garden on the other side, all California-friendly. Both gardens are beautiful, and they're set as examples for our customers to see, and hopefully help continue the path toward changing our landscapes out to more water-friendly landscapes in California. At the same time, we also launched a new program. The mayor asked me, what are we going to do with the gardeners and their future? As any time of technology, anything changes, we always have to look at the workforce. And we have a lot of people who maintain landscapes and cut lawns and such. And so as part of this effort to make sure that we are transitioning the gardening workforce to maintain California-friendly landscapes, as well as educate homeowners of how to install these, we have instituted the Los Angeles Outdoor Landscape Academy, Loyola. You each have a T-shirt with the official Academy T-shirt there, and so we actually announced this yesterday. I would like to see, she's standing back. Kathy Chavez Morris is the dean of the school. And so this is her recent job assignment / endeavor, and we will have a robust array of classes to offer both landscape professionals and homeowners, and we're also educating our own DWP professional staff to make sure that they can help us with the instruction as well. So I'd like to announce that we put that in motion yesterday. And the last thing I have is I'd like to give you a little follow-up on our water quality situation that we have in the Watts and Green Meadows area. I addressed City Council last week at the request of Councilman Harris Dawson, asking about what was going on with the cloudy water issues in the area, as well as the failed disinfection that we had back in January. We are finishing investigation and remedial changes from the disinfection failure. This is an incident where the chlorine pump failed, and under the groundwater regulations, there's a certain amount of time, number of hours that you have to get that back up and running. We did get it back up and running, but we exceeded the time available because the alarm was not caught in time. And so we are taking measures to make sure that the alarm can't be missed for as long as time. It was during the filter plant shutdown. There are a number of other things going on, but the alarm did not get acknowledged in a timely fashion. When we did get there, we got someone to the site in the amount of time we had, but we couldn't get the chlorine going fast enough. Fortunately, during this time, there was not an actual detriment to water quality, so it was a technical treatment process failure, but not a water quality failure. The notices, because this event went unnoticed downtown here, that it took us a long time to get the notification out once we actually learned of the event ourselves and worked with the health department. We will be issuing a full report to the board on what has transpired with this. But the notice did go out very shortly before a incident that had cloudy water that was noticed particularly by schools in the LA Unified School District. There were 4 to 5 schools that had very rusty colored water that came out, and this was reported in the news. We have been investigating that situation. The pipes in the area are relatively new, newer than most parts of town, because the old system was actually, when that part of the town annexed to the city, we had the old water system with it. But we did experience a good amount of corrosion and like iron corrosion, kind of rust that would be suspended in the water. We have traced all the water quality complaints, starting with one at Jordan Downs back in February, some more minor ones, and then the recent one with LAUSD. We have traced all those to either fire flows, fire hydrants being knocked off, or some large flow disturbance, which is not unusual that a high velocity flow would stir up sediments. It is unusual that we would have this amount of sediment in the pipe. And so last week we initiated a flushing program. Keith Session, who heads up our distribution, has crews out there every day now flushing. Just yesterday, we received a piece of equipment that allows us to flush and filter and return that water back to the system, so we're not discharging it down the storm drain. We're adding additional crews today to flush not only from the source area, but the most highly impacted area. And we've done 40 different sites already, and we'll continue to do that until the entire system is flushed clean of any sediment that may be in the pipe. And at the same time, we're also looking for what could be potential sources of the corrosion. The new modern system should have no potential sources. There may be parts of the old system that are still feeding interconnected somehow. And we're also working on cleaning out the wells and the sump that the wells pump out of that supply that area. And so all these things are in process. The full force of the water system is behind this issue, making sure that we return that water quality to what's expected of us and what we would be proud to deliver to our customers.
What are the health implications of all of this?
So fortunately, there are no actual health implications, and which is one of the unfortunate things, because the water in some cases does not look good, and it looks rusty or discolored. But there are no health implications. It's naturally occurring iron. There's no bacterial contamination or anything like that. We have increased our testing. We are testing 3 times a day, every day in the system right now. So we dramatically increased the testing. We have recent results back from each of the schools. And so the second round of testing the schools has shown again that all the schools cleared. There's a couple on-site issues we're working with the schools on in terms of flushing their fountains and the lines on site. So we're working with LA Unified so that they can regain the confidence in the water and not have to use bottled water. But it's not a good message to tell the customers that the water is safe to drink, but it doesn't look good. And so the water, has to meet not only just the health standards, but also the standards that we would expect to deliver to our customers. But fortunately, there has been no actual health effect from this.
Questions by commissioners?
I just have a comment. I'm very glad to hear that the water that they're flushing out is being reused. and not being flushed down the drain. As you know, this is one of my big things with LAUSD. And I would hope that LAUSD would use this as an impetus to do that at all the rest of their 800 campuses throughout LA, to reuse the water that is flushed out.
And what's happened is, you know, we, because of the whole issue of main flushing when we install new mains, Keith had already been in the process of procuring a new piece of equipment that's new to us and fairly new on the market that allows it to be filtered. Would you say, Keith, you used 200 filters yesterday flushing the mains? So we did find the material that we're looking to remove, but it allows us to return that water. And one of the reasons that the flushing program has been cut back for a number of years is that between the cement lining program, which lessened the opportunity for any rusty pipes, and also because of the ongoing drought throughout the entire system, we have cut back on the flushing program. It appears in this area, because the water doesn't pass through here, this is kind of a final corner of the city, that things accumulate, and we can't afford to go that long without flushing.
Are you using it for irrigation, the water you're flushing out?
This actually returns to the system for drinking, so it's actually drinkable when it comes out, yes.
Oh. Okay.
Bill?
Yeah. I was pretty shocked myself when I saw the news reports, but I was heartened to know that and have confidence in you, Marty, and everybody down to Keith, Brionia, everybody in the water system, that this was taken care of and that LADWP would never put any unsafe water out there to its customers. And so I want to thank the water staff. I've been down to Watts several times in the past few weeks, but also have spent time there, which I've talked about before. And I want to tell you that I'm impressed. I think that the staff has been professional. They've handled questions well. And I think that the three-part program of investigating, coming up with a remedy, and then putting into place systems so that it never happens again is well on its way. So I really want to thank you for that, and I continue to have confidence in that. I just wanted to say a couple things. I think that the notification about the treatment plant ended up getting conflated with the news story, and so I think that it's important to get the facts out, get real data, and make it transparent, make it public. So the one thing about the notification on the plant, I don't know if we can do this, if it's inconvenient or whatever, but if we have a regulatory notification, this incident happened in February, correct?
Actually, during January.
In January. If there's a way that we can shorten the time frame, even if it's voluntary, that may go a long way to making the community feel that we're not just trying to wait and we're acting sooner. So I don't know if that could be done, if possible or not.
I agree.
The second thing is on the water. I think it's important when our credibility is called into question that we make public these test results. If they're good, they're good. If they're bad, they're bad. But if we can somehow figure out a way, develop a dashboard or something to deal with this in a way that satisfies the public, and maybe you could work with good people like Commissioner Jackie DuPont Walker or other commissioners that have significant interest in that community, Reverend McShorty or Mr. Chatham from the last board meeting. I think that would be helpful to maintain and restore our credibility there. So I would just say that if we can get the lab results up, and then the last thing is the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about is Flint, and this is not Flint. There's nothing close to it, and I think that needs to be dispelled. It needs to be repeated, not because we're saying it just to say it, because that's what it's based on, the true facts. That's what the true facts are. And so this, I think it may be helpful to have at some point in the future. I've talked to you about a presentation that was done for East Bay Mud, about to to make sure that people have confidence in our water system. It's not that we do 250,000 tests a year of water, and the issue of water that's coming out at the tap is an entirely different issue than water that's being delivered pre the water meter that everybody has. And I think that it's important to just get the information out there so it's available to the public. So if they're confused about it, then it's readily accessible. So I just want to, again, thank you for hanging in there, working 24/7 the past 2 weeks in the midst of budget, procurement, DWP reform, and everything, and making sure that our children and the citizens in Watts and the surrounding area are safe.
Okay, thank you. It is our top priority.
Thank you very much. Comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations.
I do.
Commissioner Barat.
Thank you. I'd like to speak about something that relates to our departmental operations. As you know, the City Council has a motion to reform DWP and the governance as well. And in that light, I've been very involved with trying to find positive ways that this department can be reformed. And our main objective, I think, on the commission is policy. And I noticed today's agenda as an example, the consent agenda of items that I believe should not be decided by the commission, but should be in the purview of the general manager and to give her more authority. And I wanted to just mention a few of these. And this is today's consent calendar. Insulating oil for new electrical apparatus, meter boxes, covers, and vaults, butterfly valves for Upper Stone Canyon Reservoir, furnish and deliver digital photocopiers to be used in the print shop, purchase of urinal bags, disposable solid waste containers, and portable restroom kits. Now, I know that these are all important, and I'm not questioning their importance, but I think that our focus on the commission should be in efficiency and policy, and that I would like to go on record as saying that these kinds of things should be given to the general manager, give her more authority to make these decisions, and that the commission should not be voting on these kinds of issues.
Thank you. Just one comment. I could not agree with you more. I think, and council can correct me on this, I see we have a coup in the council chair here. Good coup. I think the reason they're on the agenda is because they exceed the price limit at which the general manager is authorized to act at her discretion. And I think the way to deal with this, I'm not quite sure if it requires, procedurally, if you need to council approval or charter approval or something, it would be to raise the threshold.
Yes, and I think that other utilities, such
Right.
as
Council says right.
Yes, you're
yeah,
correct.
other utilities, such as SMUD, have a much higher level at which the general manager can make these decisions. And I understand why these are on here, and I think it's kind of a good reason. And I think the thought was that the commission should be open, we are under the Brown Act, and for transparency's sake, we should know how the department is operating. But I think it's kind of counterintuitive when we look at all the policy decisions that we're asked to make. And I would recommend that two things. One, that the general manager be given more authority, and two, that the amount that the general manager is allowed to make these decisions be raised. I don't know what it is right now, but I think we were looking at more like 5 million, which is some of the other utilities have in the state, than what it is right now.
The current city ordinance allows the general manager to enter into contracts that are valued at $150,000 or less for periods of less than 1 year, and those can be renewed for a period of 3 years.
So this would require an ordinance change?
Yes, this would require an ordinance change.
But that's an easy thing.
Well, if you get the city council to agree with you.
Well, I think that's what we need to do.
Okay.
That's what we need to do. Count up to 8 and let's go.
Other comments?
Oh, well, with all due respect, President Levine and Commissioner Beck, it's funny because I actually pulled a lot of the agendized items that you said weren't worthwhile commenting on, because I take the time to actually read through everything, and there are things that stand out. And I think that, you know, the department really has been trying to make an effort to create more transparency. We've spoken for the past, you know, at least 5 years about bettering the procurement process. With all due respect to General Manager Edwards, I know that she's been understaffed in that capacity, that Glenn Williams, who heads procurement services, was out for a while given health issues. But I mean, if you even look at, as you may think it's a silly thing, the urinal bags. If you look at the history, they're asking us to spend over 130% more than we did in 2013 for these items, yet they don't even state how many of these items we're receiving. You know, as for the meter boxes, a big issue for us, we've invested millions of dollars on meters, and yet there's been this transition of trying to replace the field workers who actually read them, to have it done, you know, just through wire transfer, and that's a big item. So it's like, I don't want to keep investing $12 million on meter boxes if we are actually transitioning to a more modern way of meter reading, and that would save the ratepayers millions of dollars if we can replace those field workers and incorporate this modern technology. So, you know, I think that, you know, as a commission, we really owe it to the ratepayers to do our homework, to see why such increases are being asked without being substantiated. And, you know, I've been told before, why do you focus on $2 million issues when your budget is in the billions? It's on principle. If we're going to really look towards the ratepayers supporting the increases that we're saying that we require, we need to do our jobs as commissioners to make sure that, you know, $5 million here, $12 million there is actually the appropriate amount, and it's being spent in the right direction of moving forward with modern technology and efficiency.
Okay, we'll move on. We have 2 public comment cards.
Yes. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes. The first public speaker is Jennifer Denias. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Jennifer, D-E-I-N-E-S?
Who's talking?
I am.
Oh, hi. Yeah, Jennifer Dinas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How many minutes did you say?
2.
2. Okay. Can I start now?
Yes.
Please.
Okay. I'm a parent at Doris Place Elementary School. I think you heard about that at your last meeting regarding the recycled water pipeline that's coming in front of our school, and the reason why it's so important to us for film revenues. Our school receives 30% of the filming revenues that come into the school, and we use that to pay for auxiliary staff, teaching assistants, yard supervision, and all that. But I just wanted to bring it home and tell you how important this is, because this here is a chart of all the filming activity at the school in the last 10 years. That's 153 projects, including a McDonald's commercial that shot there just last week for 3 days. And the 153 projects also represent feature films, which are there for days. This is a huge revenue source for us. And what's so important about this school is the way that it looks in the front, as you can see. That's where they're trying to sell hamburgers with it. The tree canopy is special. The school is special. And we really would prefer if you guys could go around the back, because then we wouldn't jeopardize that. We wouldn't jeopardize the look of the school. And this is also an income generator and a revenue generator for the community as a whole. I'm involved in the film industry. I've shot here a number of times. This is important. In addition to that, I wanted to also say that we're really happy about recycled water, and it's not a problem. And we'd like you to know that it's already going in, as a matter of fact. This is the job that they're doing in Elysian Park right now, which is part of the water recycling EIR. And the scope of work is actually defined as putting in the sprinkler pipes. And you guys are already doing that, but your EIR isn't certified. And so perhaps you'd like to go back and redo the EIR to redact that, and at the same time, maybe choose that route that goes around the back, because we would really appreciate it. It would mean the world to us. It doesn't cost that much more. You've already offered us a full-time nurse as a mitigation measure. You've offered to pay us off for the lost film revenues, and that is equivalent to the amount of the pipeline.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker is William Taylor.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for the privilege of speaking before you. I'm a citizen of Watts. I'm not here representing Watts. I'm representing my household, the Taylor family. And I want to let you know, is there a Barbara here?
Yes.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
I spoke to you. Very professional. Made me feel at ease, let me get off my chest what I had to say. And I'm going to do the same with you, but I'm going to be respectful. In that, the letter that came out on the 18th, I've been a mid-level manager for 35 years. I'm semi-retired. I do contract work for Lockheed Martin. I read this letter and it says, this is not an emergency. You do not need to boil your water or take any action. And as a mid-level manager, I learned to read every bit of a letter. The last bullet point says, people with severely compromised immune systems, infants, and some elderly, being 63 on the 24th of this month, I consider myself elderly. You may be at increased risk. These people should seek advice about drinking water from their health care provider. That's what set me off. You don't send a mixed letter like that. And then on the back, it said, contact all the schools in the area, share this letter. And I did so. I called all of the schools, 96th Street, 102nd, Markham, Jordan, schools I went to. Some of the schools knew, some did not. Now, for the adults, shame on them if they didn't come up here and take the opportunity to speak. But it's about the children. I have 2 grandchildren. I have a 10-year-old granddaughter and a 4-month-old grandson. In a house full of women, I finally got a grandson. I don't want anything to happen to him. I pay for clean drinking water. That's all I'm asking you for. And I want somebody to come to my home. I had my home remodeled. So I have copper piping all throughout. Risers are copper. Why would I not think there was something alarming when this happened January 15th? I know that there was a citation issue. That's not something you need to speak about in public. You know it's there. And for anybody that does their due diligence, they know it's there. But your letter led me to places where I could not get help. The EPA number they put on this letter went to a referral EPA in Washington, D.C. I was then transferred to San Francisco. Then I got the right people to help me. But I did this all on my own, not because of this letter. Please, please make sure, and I've been drinking, I guess, that well water from 99th Street since elementary school. I'm 63. I'm fine. I'm going to take care of me. But when these incidents happen, this letter tells me, not you on the board, but somebody sat there and tried to devise a way to minimize the impact to the community. That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong. And you're supposed to notify the community within 24 hours. That's not you guys. That's somebody below you failed to do their job. And then I don't want to come in here and jump on you because your job is to oversee that. Barbara was very nice. She gave me all the information I needed to come here and speak to you. And I want to let you know, thank you for the privilege, but please make sure I get clean drinking water and that somebody comes to my home and check, because I bought a filtration system immediately because this letter was mixed in its message. And I filed a proper claim form. And I didn't go out and get a $50,000 filtration system. I went to Lowe's, got a $701 system, got it installed, and that's all I'm asking for. So in the future, when we get these notices, somebody needs to scrub these, because this was poorly written, and for somebody like me who's a nerd to begin with, I got excited and I reacted, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
I don't believe I've seen a copy of that letter, and I would request one.
I left it on your desk. It had an email and a
Okay.
copy of the citation behind it.
Okay, I'll take
Yeah.
a look at it. But I appreciate your message, and I could not agree with you more.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Comments from ratepayer advocate.
We have comments on item 13, 25, and 26.
13, 25, and 26. Okay, so we'll remove 13 from the consent calendar, and I'll ask for other removals in a moment. Approval of the minutes, item 6. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? And I understand there's an amendment to the minutes as sent out.
Yes, we were going to make sure that Commissioner Noonan's request was clarified, so I can read that request for you to
Please.
change it on the minutes.
Yeah.
Commissioner Noonan from the 5-3 board meeting said, please prioritize providing a formal presentation to the board relating to LADWP's current standing and long-term strategic plan relating to its informational technology systems. Please outline the expenditures made to date and those forecasted by the department through a detailed branch summary structure.
Commissioner Noonan, does that accurately reflect your comment?
Yes.
Is that amendment is there a motion to approve the amendment?
So moved.
Second, those in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second, those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
They're approved as amended.
Excuse me,
Yes.
President Levine. I just want to make one comment on
Yeah.
minutes, even, this won't affect the approval or not.
Okay.
But I asked for a timeline for the equity metrics. Nancy Sutley did provide that to me in draft form, and I think that she'll be circulating it to the board when we, as the program is rolled out. So I just saw the timeline about a couple of hours ago, and any comments that I have, I assume will be circulated to the board if we have to, do some, circulate it next week. Then I just wanted to make sure the board knew that the program was moving forward.
When do you expect that to come to the board?
I think we'd have to ask Nancy, but I'm not sure that she's here. Probably next week.
You mean the next meeting?
Next meeting.
Next board meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Do commissioners wish to remove any items in addition to item 13 from the consent calendar?
19?
Just a second. I'm going to
Sorry.
start this way because I know Commissioner Noonan's got some.
Thank you, and I promise to be to the point, but I would like to further discuss items 7, 10,
Wait. 7, 10,
12,
just a second. 12,
13, as you already mentioned,
13,
19,
19,
and lastly 21.
and 21.
Thank you.
Are there any other items that any commissioners wish to remove from the consent calendar?
Oh, wait, did
I said 19, you
oh,
wanted
so
20 as
I'm
well.
sorry, 20 also.
Okay, just a second. And I need to remove 23 because I need to be recused. So that leaves on the consent calendar items 8, 9, 11, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 22. Is there a motion on those items?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor of the named items, please say aye.
Aye.
Those items are approved. So we begin with item 7, Commissioner Noonan.
Okay, well, I do appreciate staff meeting with me prior to the commencement of this board meeting. And there's a lot of information that was shared with me that was not included within this request. And so I do think it's important for my fellow commissioners as well as the ratepayers to understand why there's such a drastic increase in price. And I mean, I think it's better if you provide the summary, but I think it's very important to understand that there's new regulations in place, that we're moving from cotton to synthetic fibers, and this is something that SC&E, PG&E are doing. However, this is, if you do the math, it works out to $3,032 per employee that we're furnishing these garments with. I'm all about safety. At the same token, the one thing that I was not satisfied with when we did meet is it's stating that, you know, this budgeted item for approximately $12.5 million to provide attire for 4,132 LADWP employees. I'd like, you know, more information on how that breaks up, because my understanding is that we employ approximately 9,000 individuals at LADWP. So how is it, considering joint services, water, our staff, how is it that 4,132 people require these garments, which breaks down to approximately $3,000 per person? So I'm still unclear on that.
Mr. Ed,
So would you want to do any public comment first?
why don't you respond to Commissioner
Perfect.
Noonan's questions, and then we'll see if there are any others.
Okay, so as far as the number of employees, is that these garments are for employees that are out in the field that are doing work around electrical equipment. And we'll find some employees in the water system that are doing work around electrical equipment. We have employees in the joint system, and of course, many, many employees in the power system doing work around electrical equipment. And so the numbers that you see is not just for the 4,000 employees that you see here, but we're doing a long-term contract, so it allows us to replace these uniforms and the protective equipment over time. Many of our linemen are working in very difficult and challenging situations where they're working on poles or digging holes, and these shirts and garments just do not wear for years and years. And so we have a replacement cycle so that they can replace on an annual basis after review, so that they can stay in this protective clothing moving forward. So I hope that addresses the numbers of people. We do have a lot of people that get out into the field on a regular basis. We have employees that visit the field, engineers that also need some levels of protective equipment when they're in stations. Let me speak a little bit to the specification and why it's so important. This was specified very specifically because we are changing how we protect our employees to go to a two-garment strategy. There's an undergarment and an overgarment. This is better for our employees to work around this hazardous electrical equipment. And because we're going to a two-garment process, we wanted to make sure that we were also protecting the heat and stress on our employees. Last year, we had 9 heat-related illnesses of our employees working out in the field. So by going to a synthetic, which is breathable, think of all the breathable fabrics that people are using today in sports. These breathable fabrics will keep our employees much, much cooler in the future. So there's a dual-pronged strategy of increasing the protection, but also providing a reduction in the heat stress on our employees. So the specification was very clear that this is the direction we were moving forward on. And that's what we specified in this contract.
I think it's also important to discuss the fact that there were 7 bids, yet 5 bidders could not complete the procurement process properly, so they were eliminated. And I think this again speaks to the larger picture of making the procurement process more user-friendly. I do believe that if there were more bids in, we would be able to secure more cost-effective prices for these garments.
And so on this process, we did bid it once, and we did not get a successful bidder. So we went out for what's called a request for information to find out how we could change our bid package moving forward and incorporate the technologies that were appropriate. And so we had responses to that. So we restructured this bid package to incorporate that RFI, that request for information, so that the bidders were aware. Now, I can't speak to any particular bid on why they did not bid the fully synthetic clothing, but we had one bidder that did respond completely to our specification.
You know, I would feel, and I know that certain commissioners would disagree that I'm speaking about this subject, but you know, the summary states that you're recommending that the ratepayers pay approximately $12.5 million for 113,300 garments over a 3-year period. So for each of those garments, we're talking $3,021, which just seems very inflated to me. And I just think that it's very important. If you do have information of these other utilities buying these products, it'd be nice to cost compare what they're spending per garment, because that just seems like a lot of money to me, over $3,000 per garment.
It is a competitive process, and that's the important part. And this is how we get the best prices for the city of LA, is through a competitive process. And other bidders were able to bid for a portion of their bid synthetic clothing. And it's the technology that we ultimately will be going to for our employees' benefit. Now, let me just let you know the ramifications of not having a contract. Is we've been doing spot purchases and just sort of filling the gap for our employees with just minimal amounts of clothing. The federal OSHA, they have gone through and looked at new standards, and they have adopted those standards. OSHA is right behind. They look at the federal standards, they establish their own standards, but by beginning of 2017, these new standards will be established. The clothing that we have on our employees today will not meet the standard, and we're not going to be able to get there through spot purchases. So we need a contract, because ultimately we have to meet the standards that are being set for this technology. There's a variety of ways to get there. We have chosen synthetic technology for the reasons I've stated, because of the numerous heat-related injuries that we've had, and we want to minimize that to the greatest extent possible. But we don't have the luxury of waiting for long periods of time, because we have compliance deadlines looming right before us.
So, Mike, is it correct that if we do not approve this and move in the direction that you've outlined, we run the risk of, a very clear risk of violating these standards?
As the department does bids and rebids, 6 months is very, very, very quick, and then we would run that risk.
My understanding is that the regulations are going to take place in January of 2017, and I just think that a better job could have been conducted in terms of the bidding process, making sure that the 7 entities that did want to bid properly went through the process correctly. And you know, given the fact that you're requesting $3,000 per garment, I'm all about safety, but it'd be really nice to know whether or not that is the asking normal price or if we're paying a premium. That's my position.
Not to be combative, because I respect Commissioner Noonan immensely, this to me is an example of the type of resolution Commissioner Barad outlined, where I think we should leave discretion to the staff, particularly in light of the safety requirements and the timing requirements and the likely non-compliance that we would be found to be in if we delay this for the period of time that rebidding would require. Is there a motion?
I have speaker cards for this item.
Oh, I'm sorry, speaker cards. 3 speaker cards.
Yes. The first speaker is Jay Hines.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to appear before you in support of the staff recommendation. In 2015, LADWP completed a clothing wear trial to validate the performance characteristics of many products utilizing FR fabric. These products were ultimately specified in a bid put together by your staff, which is bid 0647. My client responded to this bid with the identical products to those specified, as opposed to other bidders who came forward with other types of products that were not meeting the requirements set forth by your staff. One of the greatest risks related to the utilities FR clothing program is that if the garments are not comfortable, end users, people on the poles and the ground, being exposed to arc issues, the end users will simply not wear them. This can obviously lead to a very hazardous consequence and unnecessary risk. Synthetic, inherently FR fabrics tend to offer greater breathability and higher end user satisfaction as opposed to treated fabrics which are not. The issues here are skin irritations or even heat stroke, as noted by Mr. Webster. The city will show consistency in awarding this bid to my client. Most recent bid awards by the city have been made to products utilizing inherent fabric. In each case, treated fabrics were not deemed equivalent by the city and its technicians to the products specified by the city. This, we believe, is consistent with LADWP's decision to conform the award as set forth in the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Will Vereen.
LADWP is asking you to authorize $12.5 million for a clothing bid where Affinity bid $4.8 million and Tyndall bid $5.9 million for the actual garments on the bid. LADWP is asking for $6.6 million more than Tyndall's bid. I don't know why. LADWP states that the amount that they were asking for is 17% higher than they originally estimated, and they want you to believe it's because of market conditions and new OSHA requirements. That's not correct. It's 17% higher because Tyndall knew they couldn't lose and submitted pricing way higher than they ever would have under a competitive bid process. For example, Tyndall bid $6,808 for 24,000 lineman shirts on this bid. Just before this big bid and just afterwards, LADWP made small spot buys of these same lineman shirts, 2,100 each. There were no tricks to guarantee Tyndall would win those, so they bid $56.24 and $49.90. So for 10 times less volume and no guarantee of a win, Tyndall bid 17% less and 26% less and lost both bids. This is no coincidence. The board needs to understand exactly how badly LADWP and ratepayers are being gouged. 7 companies turned in quotes because LADWP said they would fairly evaluate alternates to the proprietary Tyndall fabrics that were specified. They didn't and ruled that no bidder was compliant other than Tyndall, which no one could be. One bidder responded, my protest clearly shows their errors in evaluating our products, but they never responded to my detailed protests with any substantive rebuttals. For example, LADWP required Henley knit shirts to have a protection rating of 10 or greater. They are all well aware that our Henleys are rated at 9.8. They have purchased thousands of our 9.8 Henleys. To our knowledge, LADWP has never purchased any shirts rated at 10 or higher. They disqualified my Henleys based on this 9.8 rating. But maybe their new internal study says 10 is the new minimum protection rating, as they claimed. No. This same bid required woven shirts be rated at 9, not 10. These knit shirts and woven shirts are worn interchangeably, and OSHA doesn't require one shirt or pant to have a higher protection rating than another shirt or pant. If 9 is acceptable for woven shirts, it's acceptable for knit shirts. Requiring 10 on knits instead of 9 was an easy way to eliminate competitors. There are major issues like this throughout this bid, and LADWP is not acting in the best interest of the linemen or ratepayers. I urge the board to read my protest and seriously investigate this bid. PG&E pays $1,700 per 3-year period for the same uniforms, and they wear synthetics. The wear test that they mentioned was not open to other bidders that I know of. We were the incumbent. We found out about the wear test a month before the bid came out. And it was already done, and there was no communication with the people, and it was over. Our 2-garment set is more comfortable and lighter weight than the specified brand, and we proved it in our bid response. They never asked for the layering combination of those 2 shirts together, but ours is 24, far in excess of what's needed by the department.
Could you wrap up your remarks, please?
Yes. Any questions?
I want to thank you for taking the time to provide us with this information, with your experience, and having served on this board for several years. To me, I'm absolutely all about safety, and I want to make sure that our employees have the best protection possible. But why I'm going to vote against this is because this is a perfect example, which I've seen time and again, and I have been told by reliable sources that this is done on purpose, that there's a technical specification that is provided within the bidding process, which eliminates most of the players and automatically yields these bids to certain companies. And you may argue, we're talking about $12 million. This adds up over 5 years, and so for me, I really appreciate you substantiating what I've heard several times by various respectable sources. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Robert Wittenberger.
Excuse me. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. Appreciate the opportunity to speak here today.
Could you pull the mic? Could you pull the mic a little?
Sorry.
Yeah.
There are 2 specific products on the bid which Affinity quoted, or a competitor quoted as treated cotton products, and those products are core to the program. It's a button-down shirt and it's a lightweight canvas pant. Those fabrics are available in inherent synthetic, lightweight and comfortable fabrics, and they chose not to quote them. The numbers that were presented here are for different types of products. The products are different. How much does a car cost? Depends on what kind of car that you want to buy. LADWP has chosen to specify comfortable, highly safe, highly protective items. They're certainly not the Mercedes of the world, but I can tell you that they are priced, substantially under the market for an opportunity this size. I also wanted to mention that the manufacturer is a certified CPUC certified woman-owned business enterprise, and that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, do you care to respond to the comments that were made by the second speaker?
Well, the second speaker, I think, is affirming the specification that we've written to protect our employees and to do it in such a way such that it reduces the impact of heat stress while they're out working on our equipment during the hot summer months. And so it's important for us to establish a specification for our employees. And this is, if we were to go out again, we'd do the same specification, because that's what the industry and that is what the scientists are telling us is the best way forward. So if vendors choose not to quote to the specification, we'd find ourselves in the exact same situation that we find ourselves today. Is there was a specification that was put out that was clear, and so I'm not sure we'd find a different result.
And what about the price disparities and the allegation that because this was an inevitable result, that the bidder intentionally substantially inflated the price?
We had multiple bidders that were able to bid synthetic clothing, not one bidder. So they were able to cobble together synthetics, but the ones that were disqualified also added the cotton fabric into their bids, which were non-compliant. So there is not one manufacturer of the fabric, there is not one supplier that can produce synthetic materials and supply a quotation to us.
Other questions, comments? Where's Commissioner Barad? I think we should wait till coming back. Okay.
I wonder if the RPA has any thoughts about
this?
Well, thank you for asking. I believe most of you got a report from us yesterday on governance issues, and that's where Dr. Pickle is this morning, is briefing the council on the report. And that is, of course, very much on our minds as we think about this issue of contracting. And so we've laid out a different framework for dealing with these issues that we hope will be more productive of putting the board in a policy role where it reviews the practices regularly and it fine-tunes them, and the organization gets more sophisticated over time. Right now, we're kind of in a pattern where, because the transactions don't allow you to make any changes to policy or programmatic activities, you end up kind of behind the 8 ball with a situation where a transaction's ready to go. But one of the things we said in that report that bears on this conversation is that if you had 5 responsive and responsible bidders with no exceptions, then we can all feel really comfortable that the public got its money's worth and the ratepayer got its money's worth. There are many situations in utilities where that's never going to happen, despite best efforts. Whether this is one of them or not, we would have to delve into it further and report back to you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I move approval of this item. Is there a second?
Second.
I second.
Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
So 4-1 with Commissioner Noonan voting opposed. We move to item 10, Commissioner Noonan.
Okay, so there's a huge increase in what we paid in 2013 for these items to what you're asking for us to vote on today. And the request doesn't even state what we're getting for our money's worth. I mean, how many of these items are we getting for $1.5 million? The fact that that basic fact is missing astounds me, and the fact that there's no explanation is for the increase in cost. I also think that this agendized item should have been better written.
So I'd like to introduce Bassam to talk a little bit more about this particular item, and maybe he can address some of your questions.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Bassam Abu Shakr from Power Engineering. This item is used by water system, power system, and the increase is really because a lot of our generation renewables, they're in the outlying field, they're in the Owens Valley, transmission that is, we're building the Barren Ridge, so the Pine Tree Wind. So the increase is mainly due because a lot of the employees are working outside the LA basin. Now, this is a $1.5 million for 3 years, and this material is only ordered on an as-needed basis to backfill our stock. So we stock these material. I don't want to repeat the whole description of urinal bags, disposable solid waste, but it's a stock item. And normally when the field needs it, they come to the store and they order them. So it's only used on as needed. If we only need to order $500,000 in 3 years, that's what's used. If we need to order the full amount, it will be used. But it's warranted that we have this material because our employees will be doing different things if they don't have this material.
See, now that makes perfect sense to me. Don't you think that should have been included?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I agree with you. And there's a combination of different groups working on this. I know I'm presenting it because I decided to take charge of moving forward with it. But really, this is an item that is used by the store, and the store stocks it to make sure that our employees, before they go out to outlying areas in different, they have this, which is very important.
Well, I mean, given your statement, it makes sense. The fact that, the mayor has highlighted this goal we have as a department. We are investing millions of dollars on renewables outside of the city of LA, so that makes sense. But I didn't put that together, when reading it. It didn't make sense to me, but now that you've said that, it makes sense. So I move to approve this
We'll
item.
make a better job next time. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
So you move to approve?
Yes.
Second, those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's approved. Okay, item 12, Commissioner Noonan.
Would you like a description of these?
I think
Oh, go
the
ahead.
big question is, it seems that at least once a quarter, we're investing millions of dollars towards our meters, and there's been presentations provided to the board about the transition of moving to wireless readings versus having field people do readings. And I know that you've spoken in the past about a transition taking place. So how does this request for $12 million play into the forecasted role of how meters will be placed in red in Los Angeles?
Okay,
I
so
don't want to spend $12 million if this is going to be focused on
Right,
antiquated technology.
So we have Cree Horner and Kevin Brown and Brionia Lindsay, if we need them here, to discuss how the new meters look and how they're installed incorporating these vaults. So go ahead.
Good afternoon. We brought a meter with us. The meter boxes are going to be needed even with the automated meter reading systems. They go in the same type of boxes and vaults. The difference would be that now a meter reader has to come by and open the lid of the vault, read the meter, put the lid back on. With the automated systems, it's either a drive-by system where they just get in the vicinity and the reader will pick it up, or the new systems will be transmitted back to a central location. But the meters require the same type of boxes that we're using now, and that's what this contract is for. So it's compatible with what we're moving towards.
And what's the status on that, Marty? I mean, how close are we to completing the mission of, going to more advanced meters?
We have 3 pilots going on right now with different companies and different platforms. The one is in conjunction with what the power system is looking at. Power has a different issue with two-way communication because they'd like to be able to reach back into the house and particularly control electrical usage. There's not that reach back need from the water system necessarily. So, and there's also not the same kind of products available that the power system has, in that platform. We're also working on a pilot right now on a platform that the gas company is using, and there's a third pilot going on. There's been a fourth product proposed as well that use different methods of collecting information off the internet. So we do have pilots in 3 parts of town that we're working on. We do have a smart meter system with Rec and Parks. Also we have 100 park meters out there. That happened a few months ago. So the biggest question for us is how to make sure we don't tie ourselves into one brand, ideally, that we have a selection of meters. There are some platforms that all the different meters that we use can be compatible with, so we want to have as much competition as possible. But it's the technology part of how to best get that signal in, and at the same time, we're also looking at companies to help us with data management. San Francisco recently did a water system remote metering, and they're inundated with information, and so it's not only collecting the information, but it's having the process to digest it and make use of it. So we are working on that as quickly as possible, but trying to make smart decisions along the way.
One last question. You talk about wanting to diversify, working with different entities. At the same token, this contract is a sole source solicitation. Why is it that this is the only firm that received certification from LA's Bureau of Engineering? It kind of contradicts what you just did.
Yeah, so in the meters, it's the different brands of actual meters themselves, like the one sitting there. I'm not sure which brand it is, but there's Badger, Neptune, and a whole. There's 3 or 4 or 5 that we use. Can you guys speak to the issue with the vaults? Because it's about public safety, I think, is the biggest issue.
Well, right. The current the vendor that we use is the only one who's invested in the process to get their products approved and on the list with the Bureau of Engineering. There are other vendors that make similar products, and we have been working with them and trying to entice them to come in to the LA market and get those approvals. It does cost money. There's testing involved and so forth. And there are some folks that are interested, and we're trying to nurture that as best we can. We do realize that this doesn't meet our goal of having good competition. We realize that, and we're working with other vendors, and we're working with the Bureau of Engineering to try to bring that about.
The issue with being certified by the city is, you think of the claims that we've had to pay for people stepping in a broken meter lid or a cracked vault lid, and we see those in closed session regularly. And so it's important that we have a product that's licensed in the city of Los Angeles and that meets the structural requirements, because this is the one piece of the water system that the public is exposed to is the meter box or a meter vault.
But I hope you agree, I'm sorry, your name again?
Kevin Brown.
I hope you agree with Mr. Brown in that we really should try and work with these firms and the Bureau of Engineering to increase competition.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
And then I just want to make sure, so this expenditure, it's going to be useful for the direction that we're going in. We're not investing this in antiquated technology for you just to ask next year for us to spend another $12 million on boxes.
No, it's fully compatible with the technology.
Okay. All right. With that, I move. And again.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Ratepayer advocate?
Well, I just wanted to say it's music to our ears to hear that they're doing pilot programs, because one of the lessons learned over the last decade and a half is the terabytes the utility has to manage and turn into useful value are not often well thought through. And many utilities have thought that some vendor was going to take care of that for them. And at the end of the day, the risk gets socialized because no one can handle the volume of data that a utility is going to be managing. So the only way to really get the meter data management system specified right and built right the first time for the lowest cost is to do these kinds of pilots and look at all of your options. It's going to take quite a long time. And I'll give you as an example the radical innovation of deck material that was made out of plastic shards. This was a 10-year process of working itself into the construction field, when in fact there's lots of people who build buildings and who would like, resistant decking. This is a monopoly where it has to really work hard to cultivate its supply chain and bring new technology forward. So it will take some time.
Okay, thank you.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's passed. Thank you. Item 13, Commissioner Noonan and also Dr. Pickle, or his stand-in, Ms. Camden.
In light of the discussion on this item, I thought it would be useful to provide a few of the background pieces of information that put this in maybe a little more context. Last year, the board asked the management to put together a cost-benefit methodology for recycled water projects. And at this point, we are happy to tell you that we do have a set of criteria that the department is saying it's going to use to rank these projects. This particular project has a mobilization date of 18th of October of 2016. And so you're in a somewhat awkward position of a project that appears to have started last year. I'm told that at least $4 million have been spent so far. Our approach to these projects in the rate case was to get them all itemized and ranked, because the public briefings of the Recycled Water Master Plan clearly demonstrate that there are a lot of projects in the $40 to $1,200 per acre foot range that should be done first, in the hopes that we'll learn enough doing those projects to bring down costs over the long run. This is a strategy of almost putting a drop of water in the glass every year for 100 years to leave Los Angeles in a more reliable position where it has more local water. So you don't want to start with the most expensive drops. That said, this particular project appears to have started construction with a ranking of 39, which is fairly low and reflects the unloaded cost per acre foot per year of $2,510, far above what the department says it would be willing to spend on desalination. And so the question is whether, as fiduciaries who are managing really a whole portfolio of projects, whether there are other projects that are now defunded that could get us more water, more bang for the buck, or whether we're really going to move forward with a master plan that ranks things and brings things to our office for a cost-benefit review before it heads out of a gate in the project management process and starts constructing. It's a project that is somewhat straddling, the way they were managing it before the master plan became more mature. And so I offer to you our willingness to take any direction you would like to take with this. It could be that in light of, the high public support for the parks and the change in the rate design for water that will have parks paying more, that after you look at the other defunded projects who are having higher priorities but no funding because of this one, that you decide to go forward with it. Or maybe you're just prepared to decide that today, but I will leave that to you to provide some request to our office.
She's so diplomatic. I love it. I believe that many astute points were raised. I also question the rate of return on this investment, and I also would like to know why Parks and Recreation isn't footing some of this bill as well.
Bill, do you want to answer? Oh, Bill Van Wagner.
Yeah, Bill Van
Mr.
Wagner,
Fontucker.
Planning. Rec and Parks is funding the portion to get the golf course online, the Roosevelt Golf Course. We're funding the remainder of the system.
Can you tell us in terms of dollars what that translates to?
It's about $21 million is DWP and $4 million is the golf course.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Do you want a presentation?
No. Oh, the last question I have, actually, I take that back. I apologize. It said that you received 75 solicitations, 28 primes, but there were only 2 bids. How does that happen?
So this particular solicitation is for horizontal directional drilling, which is a pretty specialized method of construction. Some of the horizontal directional drillers themselves did not want to go as primes on this because of the relatively small amount of the project being about $5 million, a little over $5 million. So they bowed out literally at the last minute, and we ended up with a situation where a prime brought a directional driller in as a sub in order to bid on this particular project.
Thank you.
If I could add just a couple quick things. So on this project, we are seeking local projects money from MWD as well as Prop 1 money. Those would substantially bring down the cost per acre foot. Getting water to broader parts of Griffith Park as well as the golf course is consistent with the mayor's ED5 goals to get 85% of the city's golf courses on recycled water. There are definitely varying costs associated with the dollars per acre foot of all recycling projects. This one is not penciled out as good as some, but it's still a worthwhile project in our eyes. Griffith Park, being the nation's largest municipal park, is to a great extent on recycled water, but it's not available everywhere in the park. At the same time, when we install things like this, we're also picking up additional fire protection that in areas that it doesn't currently exist. And we always have the ability to leverage the system where we construct it to take recycled water even further in the future. So this is a part of our Greenbelt system. It's the big area we use water for the Brick and Parks. It's in the Griffith Park. It's Forest Lawn. It's Mount Sinai. It's Universal Studios. It's the same line that's extending down toward Taylor Yard and eventually, ideally, into Elysian Park. And so it's all part and parcel of a bigger project. This does get a new area at the south end of the park brought online with recycled water and does relieve the burden of potable water use.
Any other questions or comments?
I would encourage the board to understand and look at the annual report on recycled water. It lays out the entire program for recycled water on an annual basis. It shows you the golf courses and the schedules and the areas. I think you'd have a much better understanding of how all these little networks fit together if you had an annual plan on your desk that you could pull off and look at whatever project was up before you at a given time.
Yes, Mr. President, I did have something to say because I'm supportive of this, and I think that deference to the general manager is owed here, not that it shouldn't be properly looked at and scrutinized, because this is much more than just one project. You can't just compare. It's very difficult to compare apples to apples when you buy a stock in a portfolio, when you buy a piece of real estate in a portfolio, do you try to diversify your portfolio, or do you just buy that one piece of real estate or that one stock? You diversify. Part of the reason that you diversify and you do asset allocation for any investment, including investments like these, is they will cost out at different prices. So I think that I don't know if I'm just preaching to the choir here. I'm not really asking you a question, but I just want to make sure this is clarified, because this is how I understand it. It's not just the recycled water, which we have a mandate for, and we have maybe certain deadlines for to meet, but it also, it's the portfolio approach. And I think that I'm supportive of this. I think it may be helpful to have the board rebriefed on this, our portfolios where we're doing things that may look like they're a little higher than the market or whatever, but there is ample justification. In portfolio theory, you have beta and you have risk and you have other things, and I assume that one of the things that you're doing here, and I would just ask Mr. Adams to be mindful of, is on the equity metrics end of things, a utility legally, we're legally bound to provide services on a non-discriminatory basis. And so things like this will be looked at from that end very soon, right around the corner by February 2017 or sooner. And so I hope that when things like this do come back, in addition to describing the portfolio management or how we're managing our portfolio here, that the next time there's some comment on the equities that were weighed in citing this. But I'm supportive of it. Thank you for doing it, and keep up the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I made a note to bring back a review of the whole plan, so.
Is there a motion?
So,
Commissioner Brown, I'm sorry.
I just have a comment. I'm concerned about the fact that Department of Recreation and Parks is not paying for more of this. Somehow, it doesn't seem equitable that we're picking up so much of this, and that Rec and Parks is not.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So that that doesn't feel right to me.
The way this has been playing out in the recycled water world is that in almost every instance so far with recycled water, we've been basically replacing potable water uses. Now, there are some incidences coming up. There's things such as a large expansion at Forest Lawn in Hollywood Hills, where it's a brand new water use. But at this point, recycled water use has been replacing potable water use. So when we go in and put recycled water service in, the system that delivers water has already been paid for by the customers once. And so what we're not doing is we're not charging the same customer to buy a second system, because they've already paid one time for the system. So they're taking recycled water in lieu of potable water, essentially at our request, that we're providing this as an alternate supply. So the recycled water has grown out of our regular funding. All the ratepayers' money pays for the recycled system, because it wouldn't be fair to charge one particular customer twice. In the San Juan Capistrano Prop 218 case, this is actually validated, that they said that the cost of recycled water can be borne amongst all the customers, because all the customers benefit from the fact that they're reducing potable water use. But that's the reason. If it was a brand new area that had never been watered before and a brand new water service, we would have no reason to invest our own money in it. Wow. But in this case, we're actually providing a different source of water at our desire. Well, it's a mutual desire, but it's really our driving, whereas Rec and Parks has already provided the original system for the potable water.
And you have some kind of formula where you decide how much is DWP, how much is Rec and Parks?
In this case, we're providing the backbone system up to the meter, and so they're actually replumbing the golf course, which is then on their own property piping. Other places, for instance, there's a agreement coming up. I think it's on the consent. It was one of the recycled water agreements down in Playa Vista, where that agreement is a little non-standard. We helped fund them installing the system in the Playa Vista area, and for that they're going to pay the potable rate for recycled water for a period of time to pay us back. and then once we're paid back, they'll go down to the regular recycled rate. So there's different mechanisms we use. In this case, Rec and Parks is funding up front their investment. But with any customer that takes recycled water, there's always a cost that they bear. Because they have to convert parts of their system, or in, say, like for a cemetery area, they may have to still have bathrooms or fountains on potable water in remote areas of the park while their sprinkler system is converted. So there are always costs incurred, and we work with these customers to help mitigate those costs and do it so a way that we get them to become recycled water customers. In this case, Rec and Parks they need to replumb the golf course, so it's working pretty well hand in hand.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
She should say nay.
What?
I'm sorry, it should be nay, not aye.
You're a nay.
No. If you vote no, it's nay,
Okay,
not
well,
aye.
You're a not aye.
But I'm an aye.
You're an aye.
Yes. I'm just making a comment.
Okay, thank you. So it's 4-1 with Commissioner Noonan voting no. I appreciate the clarification. You may have to remind me again. Okay, now we move all the way to what once was the consent calendar to item 19, Commissioners Noonan and Barad. Who wants to go first?
Okay. I'm not sure that this is the appropriate place to raise these issues, and I know that our esteemed city attorney will rap me on the knuckles if it isn't. All right, the last in our background here is anticipated that additional inquiries, claims for damage, and litigation will be filed against the department regarding billing matters. I think that's of deep concern to me, that sentence, and particularly the word anticipated. You know, why are we anticipating that we're going to have more inquiries and claims for damage? And I think that there's a deeper issue here, and that is, what is it that the department is doing that is bringing on more claims? And I think this is something that we need to talk about, and not just, I'm not questioning the amount of money, the appropriation. What I'm questioning is, why do we get so many claims, and why are we anticipating additional ones in the future?
Let me interject at
here
this
he comes.
point.
I knew he would come.
I don't think we need the city attorney to remind us that those questions need to be raised in closed session.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. I mean, then, if that's the case, then I would respectfully ask that this go to closed session.
Well, if you need an answer to why the claims, then we can come back after closed session and deal with it. But if you're not questioning the amount, we can deal with that now and get to the underlying questions later, which would be more efficient. But
Okay, if we can do that.
Commissioner Noonan?
Did you see? Joe is
Both
up and
items
down.
19 and 20 are agendized. The underlying litigation behind them are agendized in closed session if the board would like to discuss the underlying litigation behind those contracts.
Council framed what I said much more expertly than I did.
And Joe was going to, but then he sat down.
Well, we don't need Joe under the circumstances.
Oh, Joe.
When we have
Julie channeled him very well.
when we have council that we have.
Yeah, well, thank you for clarifying that.
Was I the only one who asked for 20?
Yes.
I'm still on
You
19.
did, Christine?
But Commissioner Noonan asked for 19.
I feel very well versed in the reason why we have hired is from. I think the point that I wanted to make is, without getting into details, because we can't, I just don't like the idea that there's like a carte blanche whenever we hire a law firm. And we've been working on this issue for several months now. And so my question is, are we going to be expecting a 4th, 5th, 6th amendment and request? You would think that after focusing on this issue for as long as we have, that we'd be able to have our arms wrapped around the expenditure a little bit better. And I'm not saying that it's not worthwhile, because it is, but I think, representing the ratepayers, it's important for them to feel that we're not just offering blank checks and agreeing to, the Fourth, Fifth, Sixth Amendment, asking for more money.
Could I interrupt before you start, Estelle? The city attorney's office has a practice of keeping its outside counsel on a short leash. We come back to this board over shorter periods of time than the actual contract exists for, so we can have you check back in and make sure that the task-based task orders are being properly implemented, and the city attorney can respond to any questions that you may have.
Well, given
on
that,
those
hopefully
issues.
we'll have a good update during closed session.
With that, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's passed. Commissioner Funderburk, do you want to raise any questions about item 20?
Just a comment to council that that's fine. No questions, but the comment to the council, same point I made to council who were receiving authority for us to retain them in the last two meetings, that we are considering adopting, and I'm working with Deputy General Counsel Richard Tom on applying the equity metrics under California Public Utilities Code General Order number 156, which applies to all investor-owned utilities in the state, including Edison and any regulated entity by the PUC, to the law firms and other service providers. So I would expect to get some type of report on their meeting those reporting requirements, so that the in-house counsel's office can report to the board on what our supplier diversity looks like for the law firms. Thanks.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. We now move to item 21, Commissioner Noonan.
It's interesting because I was a little confused with the summary, in that it states that we moved to outsourcing this management service in 2015. However, if you look at the procurement history, it states that we first executed this expenditure in 2012. So I'd just like clarification on that, and I'd like to understand how this investment has helped our insurance premiums.
Okay, well, first of all, the procurement for this particular vendor is recently new. This is a new vendor for us, switching from the prior vendor back to 2012. So the services have continually been provided. However, the selection or the award recommendation is to go away from the prior provider to a new provider based on the competitive bid and better pricing models. So
And how has this affected our insurance premiums?
well, the insurance premiums are relatively flat, as we purchase an excess coverage with $1 million attachment point. And so that $1 million has stayed constant throughout. We have very few claims that actually penetrate the attachment point. So the pricing model doesn't really get affected that much from the insurance premium perspective.
Have the claims decreased since we've started investing in this management service?
No, and quite honestly, the purpose of the utilization review is to be in compliance with state requirements, to either approve medical protocols or to better streamline the effectiveness of those protocols under state requirements. We have to have a licensed physician evaluate that and approve that protocol before we could either deny or modify that treatment protocol. So the services under this agreement don't necessarily impact the number of claims occurring. So to answer the first question, relative to the number of claims, we are currently at about 1,000 claims a year that we incur. Now, the true nature of a work comp claim does have a use life, or a life that's beyond individual years. So on a given claim, it could last 7 to 10 years. So which means those expenditures incur even after the initial year of the loss, or the date of loss.
So just to summarize, we're not really, saving in terms of insurance. We haven't reduced our claims, but we're agreeing to this approximately $4 million budgeted item because it's required of us.
It is a state requirement, but what it does allow us to do is basically reduce unnecessary medical treatment that may be suggested by treating physicians, separate and apart from the direction of the department. As you know, an injured worker has the right to select their own treating physician. And based on that, those practitioners may elect to do extenuate types of medical protocols that may or may not be necessarily prudent or applicable, but then they incur the cost and then we have the obligation to pay, or we actually then face fines and penalties from the state for not paying bills in a timely fashion. So the utilization review actually assists us greatly in pinpointing and accurately determining the types of medical treatments that need to be provided and reducing the cost for unnecessary types of treatment.
And since 2012, you've seen that happen.
Yes, we have.
And can you estimate and what kind of percent have you seen fraud be reduced given this service?
In 2000, last fiscal year, 2014-15, we saw a total number of 3,649 referrals for utilization review and a savings of 2.4 million.
Okay.
And then for what we call the nurse case, which is the other component of this agreement. So for example, if we have an injured worker who comes in contact with electrical energy, will sustain a burn. Paramedics responding will take them to the closest hospital. That may or may not be a burn center. We then have to get the nurse case to communicate with the ER rooms in order to transfer them to a proper burn center to get the proper treatment. So from the telephone case management and the field, we had a savings of $909,000. So collectively about 3.3 million for that one fiscal year from these services.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you wish to make a motion?
I wish to make a motion.
I wish to second it.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm recusing myself on 23. Mr. Funderburg.
Okay. Item 23, the authorization to enter into a revolving credit agreement with Royal Bank of Canada for Power System $200 million commercial paper notes under resolution number 4914.
Is there any questions on it, or I know we were doing it because the commissioner had to be recused.
Somebody pull his.
Let's see, I think that
It is something if you.
I don't
look at-
have anybody else as
Yeah.
being, having any questions on it. No other questions from commissioners? Okay, do we have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm not taking over here, but Commissioner Levine actually asked me to keep on because he had a call.
You're doing a great job. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, you did really well.
So he said to take the next, we already handled John's. Oh, geez.
Sorry.
I was all set to go.
Well, go ahead.
He was just warming up.
25 and 26. Budget for the Power Revenue Fund, budget for the Water Revenue Fund. Who's going to present?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Neil Guglielmo with FSO Budget Office. With me is Marianne Anns, the Budget Office Manager. What we have before you today is the presentation for the final fiscal year 2016-17 budget. As you know, we came before your committee back in March for the approval to transmit to the Mayor and the City Council the 2016-17 preliminary budget. So this is now the final budget presentation. Okay, so the final budget is consistent with the recently approved water and power rate actions and reflects the key priorities that we have, which include planned infrastructure investment, compliance with mandates, and transitioning water and power supplies, and improving customer service and all doing all those while maintaining affordable rates for our customers. The total rate change over the 5 years with the final budget you have before you is actually a slight reduction in power rates of roughly 0.165%. That's over the 5-year period. And for water, a reduction of 0.3% over the 5 years. So we came very, very close to our targets. We've worked very closely with our operating organizations on the proposed budget as well.
And Neil, just to clarify, that's per year?
Correct.
For the 5-year average, right?
Correct. Thank you. And we will also be presenting, we've been requested to present to the Energy and Environment Committee tomorrow afternoon on this final budget. So in terms of the mayor's priority outcome areas, as you know, the mayor has 4 priority outcome areas for the City of Los Angeles, and all city departments, including the proprietaries, are instructed to look at development of our budgets in light of those priority outcome areas. Those 4 priority outcome areas are making Los Angeles the best run big city in America, promotion of job creation all across Los Angeles, creating a more livable and sustainable city, and ensuring our communities are the safest in the nation. As you can see here on this slide, and a slide that we have in the appendix, our proposed budget, final budget for 16-17, does coincide and is in agreement with those commitments, providing excellent customer service, transition of our infrastructure and energy supplies and water supplies, increasing system reliability and compliance with mandates. As we have come before you previously on the budget, this just describes the charter requirements regarding the presentation of the budget and the fact that our water and power funds are budgeted separately. They are separate enterprise funds, and that joint costs are shown either water or power fund with reimbursements from their systems. The receipts and appropriations budget documents we provide to the mayor and the city council do differ slightly in how they look from the types of financial reports we provide internally within the department, but they do conform to the city's standard appropriations, receipts and appropriations format. This is some of the highlights that we have from the preliminary budget to the final budget. What you'll see is that we have realized some decreases, some changes in capital and O&M on the water revenue fund, primarily due to decreases in the customer relationship management system, some mail and remittance processing. In terms of the purchased water, obviously we're all very hopeful in terms of the amount of rainfall and snowfall we have up in the Eastern Sierras. It is a bit less than we had hoped for, and so the purchased water costs, while they are down in a budget sense, are up from what we presented earlier in the preliminary budget. In terms of the power revenue fund, we've seen some decreases there in both capital and O&M as well, due to the power supply replacement program, customer relationship management, and other various changes, including capitalization of the electric vehicle program costs. And then lastly, for fuel and purchase power, has decreased roughly $57 million, primarily due to the continued gas price reductions. Now we're going to move into the Power Revenue Fund. And this is our key expenditure plan summary. There's some, I would say, some highlights I'd like to point out to you. Again, fuel and purchase power has decreased from the preliminary budget to the final budget, roughly $57 million. What should be noted here is the funding for non-renewables has decreased by approximately $140 million from the current year estimated budget. And then the funding for renewables has increased by roughly $100 million, again, from the current year estimated budget. CO2 emission other expenses, as you can see, that has come down substantially. And this is largely due to the transition away from coal and Navajo. So we won't have to purchase as much on the CO2 allowances. That's the major change we've seen there. Where the revenue requirement has increased by approximately $40 million, or roughly 3.08% from the current year estimated. And capital infrastructure investments will increase by more than $117 million from current. This next slide just goes over the key program summaries. Again, I won't read through them entirely, but As you can see there, it's the Power System Reliability Program, our Power Supply Replacement Program, customer opportunities, and such. Now for Power System highlights, I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
So really there's three categories. We could have chosen from dozens of projects, but we just chose a couple of projects in each category. So the first is transformation, is how are we transforming our system. The first, Barron Ridge Renewable Transmission Project. This is an enabling project that will allow us to import all the solar and the wind energy from the Mojave area, and is a core part of our strategy to get to 25% in 2016 and 33% later. We also have the Beacon Solar Plant and the substation that we built, which is connected then to the Barron Ridge Transmission. Two very important projects that we're investing in, and both of those projects we're trying to wrap up here in 16-17. The next category is our reliability program. So we picked the pole replacement project, and this could have been the transformer replacement project, a cable replacement project, or cross arms. But we highlighted the pole replacement project of $57 million moving forward in 16-17. And the Scattergood Olympic Cable Project is also a reliability project to improve the flow of energy into the southern part of our system. So it's really critical. But last, and quite frankly, one of the most important areas is our customer-facing programs. And so what we have is how we're connecting customers with the great resurgence of business activity here in Los Angeles and the building. We have to invest in connecting these customers. So you'll see $65 million to enable customers to come to Los Angeles and build commercial properties and business properties. And then the last area is really improving our network of transmission and distribution system to make the city of Los Angeles much more livable as we invest to transition some of these replacement projects and undergrounding projects, et cetera, in that last area. So those are the three main areas I wanted to highlight for you today.
Thank you, Mike. We're now going to turn to the Power Revenue Fund capital expenditures. You can see in the slide, top left-hand corner, Customer Opportunities Program. You see definite increases there going from over $100 million to over $200 million from the 14-15 actuals to the 16-17 proposed. I'd also like to note for you some increases from the 15-16 estimated to the 16-17 proposed. That would be the Power Supply Replacement Capital Program, increases of roughly $45 million more for distribution, another $30 million more for substation. Some reductions in power system support capital reductions on the fleet side as we functional transferred from power to joint services. You'll see customer opportunities increasing roughly $16 million, mainly attributable to energy efficiency increases. Power supply replacement reductions of roughly $112 million, mainly from the Scattergood repowering. Some operating support increases. Again, this has to do with the fleet functional transfer from power to joint. Some shifting in our financial services, human resources services, systems, I should say, replacement project, some Valley Center improvements, and other IT changes.
And one other thing, just commissioners, on the capital, our rates have now been in effect for 1 month and 2 days. So part of our spending in the current fiscal year is pretty low, and that's because the operating units haven't had the funding going forward. Now we have it. That's the biggest challenge, quite honestly. Every Monday morning I'm banging on Mike and Marty, okay, we got you the money, now we got to go out and do the work. So that's part of why you're going to see the lower spending in 15-16. It's going to take a little bit to ramp up going forward, but that is the goal, and we're working hard on trying to do that on the, specifically on the reliability, both water and power. You'll see the same thing on the water.
For the O&M, you can see there O&M remains relatively flat across. Not much to change from the current year to the proposed for next year. Some decreases actually related to power system support, decreases related to Navajo O&M build expenses, Some PSRP increases, mainly due to operations and maintenance for distribution assets. Some increases in customer service, and some other changes related to O&M for wind and solar projects. For fuel and purchase power, you'll see there the overall reduction as was discussed earlier. The renewables, again, increasing, non-renewables decreasing, some changes in the net CO2 as we described previously related to Navajo. And now we're going to turn to the Water Revenue Fund. So for the key expenditure plan summary for water, I think the important items to note would be the purchase water costs are decreasing by nearly $70 million from the $267 million to roughly $198 million, although this is above what we had come before you earlier with the preliminary budget, and that's based on the information in the snowpack. O&M remains relatively flat overall. The revenue requirement is increasing by roughly $55 million, or approximately 4.9% from the current year estimate, and there's obviously significant capital investment, an increase of roughly $108 million from the current year estimate. This next slide, as we did for the Power Revenue Fund, just describes the key program summaries. Again, the Safe Drinking Water Program, water infrastructure, local water supply, and others. I'm going to turn it over to Marty to give you the highlights on the water system.
So just a few of the key efforts that we have going on. We have our mainline replacement program. So we are ramping up our goal for next year, as we had discussed during the rate proposal process. We'll be looking to install 184,000 feet of main line, including increasing the amount of earthquake-resistant pipe that we're putting in the system. Keith and his folks are actually ahead of their 150,000 goal this year. It's the first time in years that we've been able to meet or exceed our goal for mainline installation. So they've been gearing up for this. And so we look to be in good shape to meet this goal. This, again, is going to continue to increase in the future. Foothill Trunk Line, another large project going in. It's a 54-inch, almost 3 miles of 54-inch pipe going in the Southern Tujunga area. It's been a project that's been on the books for a while, but we're finally able to get to it with our forces. And then we also have the Elysian Reservoir Water Quality Improvement Project, totally separate than the Elysian project that we've talked about with the recycled water. This is the one to provide a cover on the reservoir and to meet the water quality regulations. So that project will be hitting it hot and heavy this year. On the next slide, we have a couple other areas. We have water conservation. We have $40 million in our water conservation programs. This funds education, rebates, other work that we do. Much of it's capitalized. There's some O&M in there, but it's a major investment we continue to make. This is kind of the notched up investment at the rate that we've spent similar to last year. We do still continue to offer the turf replacement program at $1.75 per square foot out of our funds, which is what we have done. MWD is not looking to fund the turf replacement program, but I think giving the poor showing that El Nino had this year, that we're going to see continued interest in that program. Pretty much right now it's us and Long Beach as the only ones offering substantial rebate, and we still are getting customers signing up, and I think we'll see a resurgence in that as well. Then we also have water recycling, almost $72 million. The biggest piece of this being the EIRs coming out soon and should be certified next fiscal year for the groundwater replenishment program, a project that's the project to take water out of Tillman Water Reclamation Plant, treat it to a higher level, and recharge San Fernando Basin. That project alone will more than triple the amount of recycled water that we have in our system that we're making use of.
Thank you, Marty. Turn it over to water capital expenditures. What you'll note there from 15-16 approved to the current year estimated, roughly $64 million less in terms of the under expenditures, as Mr. Piltola indicated earlier. That has a lot to do with the timing of the rate action being approved. And now we're very hopeful that water system and power system both will increase the level of spend. If you look, though, to the future and to the next year proposed, it's actually an increase of roughly $108 million from the current year estimated level. Those increases are in the areas safe drinking water, over $9 million for water quality reservoir improvements. Water infrastructure increases of $63 million. That's again due to reservoir improvements, distribution mains, and the Mid-Valley Water Facility. a local water supply increases of $7 million, mainly for water recycling, regulatory compliance, some changes there, completion of some projects, dust control for Owens Lake mitigation, phases 7A, 9 and 10, and some estimation there. Some operating support increases related to the fleet functional transfer from power to joint, water system security investments, and various share of joint expenditures, and then some customer service increase. For the O&M, you'll see that O&M again remains relatively flat from the current year estimated to the proposed for the next fiscal year. Some minor adjustments in the areas, but nothing really worth noting. For the purchased water, you'll see the decrease from 15-16 estimate of 267 to 16-17 proposed of 198. And as it's noted there, the Eastern Sierra snowpack was 63% normal water content to date. Is I think the most updated information we have, right, Marty? So when we had earlier come before you on the preliminary budget, we had projected a higher amount of savings because I think we were hoping that the snowpack could be a bit higher. Now that we know what the snowpack actually is, we're still going to realize savings to pass on to our customers, but it's not as large a savings. We're going to now turn to the area of staffing. You can see there the staffing components for the current year occupancy. That's by joint, water, and power in that order. And then again for the funding for 16-17, you'll see again joint, water, and power. Down below you'll see the budget amounts, labor, overtime, and benefits. And some important items to note. Labor funding, roughly 1,025 positions above current occupancy, allocated primarily for enhancing customer service, sustainability, economic development programs, some key programs for water and power, succession planning. It's a very, very big item for us. As you will note here, we realized retirements of over 550 employees so far this year. That's a significant amount of attrition that we've realized. We know a substantial portion of our workforce is eligible to retire in the coming years, and we want to ensure that we can allow for that knowledge transfer from those retiring employees to newer employees, and that's taken into account for funding for interim position authorities here.
So let me preface this one before Neil goes into it. So part of when we went through the rates, there were a variety of things that we had that we anticipated contracting out. So what this chart shows is where we are going to use, we're proposing to use staff instead of contracting out. When we talked about our core initiatives, one of the main things we talked about was that roughly 7% of the additional spending in the core initiatives was for labor. With these changes that you look at, and I'll let Marty and Mike, after Neil walks through this, talk about why we think we need staffing, it'll change it to roughly 14% and 86% non-labor, so essentially contracts and whatnot. So while it does change it, and this is certainly an item I think that Dr. Pickle has highlighted that we need to discuss as a policy, overall the numbers have gone down roughly from 7%, or the labor has gone from 7% to about 14%. And a big piece of it, and Neil will talk about, is that yellow piece of the pie on the class action lawsuit, which we'll be coming back to the board with a regulatory asset that we will set up so that our customers don't pay that until we look at, we think, a significant portion of those costs. I wish David was here today to talk about it, but we think a significant portion of those costs that are to meet the terms of the class action lawsuit will be recovered from the vendor who will be suing on that. So with that, I'll let Neil. By the way, I just want to preface it, as you listen to Neil, we have been assured he's not contagious and that we're all okay in the room as he muddles through.
Thank you, Jeff, I think. This next slide here shows the proposed funding changes on the labor side. You'll see the larger changes there. For power, it's related to the investments in staffing for PSRP, infrastructure, and solar. For water, that's $69 million, roughly 40% of the total labor change. For water infrastructure, $44 million, roughly 20%. The CCB class action lawsuit, as Jeff indicated, this relates to the staff within all the organizations that will be going through the mitigation work to comply with the class action lawsuit. Those labor costs are roughly 25% of the overall labor change, or approximately $42 million. And then, of course, just various changes, all other changes related to labor, which is roughly 15%. It should be noted the proposed outside spending, water, power, and joint does increase by more than $556 million, or 75% over the current year estimated. So that's going from roughly $733 million to just over $1.29 million for 16-17. So still a significant amount of outside spending that's included in the proposed budget. And we've worked very closely with all the operating organizations in terms of the balance of outside spending versus in-house labor. I think we're also trying to be very sensitive to the expected anticipated attrition. We've seen a lot this year. We're expecting to see more of that coming forward. We do definitely want to make sure that we can transfer that experience, that knowledge to that next wave of employees. With that, I can answer questions. I can turn over to Marty and to Mike as well if they want to add.
Dr. Pickle.
One, we recommend approval of this fiscal year budget, but we felt there should be one item we pointed out. Neil pointed out the key issue we're going to point out, that is labor budget is increased by $169 million versus the rate case. That's about a 10% increase this year rather than the rate case planned increases of less than 1% per year. So this is a change in strategy. The increase, as Neil has pointed out, is in using more labor versus contracting out. The concern is that if they aren't successful in using this labor to capitalize these projects, the rate impact will be more immediate. So for that purpose, we recommend that DWP report back quarterly on progress toward achieving the capitalization goals and progress on this budget, especially given this issue of labor spending versus contracting out.
Is there any objection to that by staff?
No, I think as a matter of fact, we've worked very closely over the past few months with the Ratepayer Advocate's Office, and we have a number of labor metrics and rates metrics that we're reporting to this body on, and on a semi-annual basis, and to the RPA quarterly. This folds right into line with that reporting that we're going to be doing, so we don't have a problem with that.
Good.
I have a question, and I really appreciated the report that you provided us yesterday, so thank you for that. In this tangent, why has it been decided to increase labor to in-house versus outsourcing? And, the concerns that I have are, are extraordinarily high pension costs, insurance, vehicles. I mean, it seems like every other board meeting we're buying more and more trucks. I mean, fueling those cars. But then most importantly, and this has been an issue of contention for many, many years, is that, we invest in training an individual to do a task, and then, a year later they're moving on to another job, and then we're losing that expertise and having to reinvest all over training somebody new. So I'm curious as to why you're leaning towards doing this in-house versus refining the procurement process and not tackling on pension costs, insurance costs, training, et cetera, et cetera.
So for power, we really look at this as a temporary increase in labor, because when you look at the amount of attrition and the positions we're funding, these are substitute type positions. They're not permanent positions. So it allows us to bring the people in to learn from those senior folks before they retire. So that's number one. So when they retire, then the additional hiring moves into those funded positions, and we're back to where we were before. So these aren't new APR type positions. And the second reason is that what we need to do is we need to really increase our ability to prepare the specifications, get the contracts out there. And so you'll see in year 3 significant amount of contracting occurring. But we need the people to actually get those specifications and contracts out the door and evaluate those bids. And so when you just look at next year, it looks like an increase, but when you look long-term, it does levelize itself out. So that's the power system's perspective on it.
And from a water standpoint, the second piece that Mike said really speaks to timing. And so it does, in order to gear up on to expend all the money, we do need staff in-house to do that, and that is a portion of it. Also, as part of our timing, so in our situation of the positions we're looking to add, all but 8 of them are all directly tied to capital construction. And they're continuing the work that we do currently to extend that work in our pipelines, and mostly in our pipeline areas. And all that work is actually all within budget and all meeting the goals that we have. Keith and the other division heads have worked on a plan for mainline replacement, and in that plan, it's both a ramp up of our own staff as well as addition of contract staff. So it is a timing issue in this sense, and it does, over the course of time, it does play into the overall plan that we have. But the first step we have to have is continue to build our forces while we're working on the contract pieces as well. But you will see the whole combined effort all within the costs that we had said and all meeting the goals that we had established.
Okay, the other question I had as well, you know, we're constantly investing money for the department to access like hubs, brain hubs, to get best-in-class technology. We want to, you know, not only learn from the piping being used in Japan after the earthquake, but I know that you've, you know, made some efforts, not a lot, some efforts to evaluate how PVC piping can be more readily used throughout LA. I know it's a lot less expensive, and from the information that I've been given, it is just as reliable. And I don't see how you're incorporating, you know, this best-in-class technology into, you know, the investments that we're making in updating our infrastructure. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, so we are actually installing more different pipe materials at this time. We have had several PVC and other similar jobs going in where we thought was appropriate spots for that. We are also accelerating the amount of earthquake-resistant pipe, which right now is a ductile iron product. There's also special joints. There's the first special fault crossing joint in the foothill trunk line that's being installed. And so we are incorporating that in our plans. Actually, I was going to report on the pipe study coming up as part of my report. But we are, you know, allowing for any progress in those areas as part of this. When we look at materials, you know, we really split the pipe costs into material, equipment, and labor. And so the materials are just one aspect of the construction costs. So if we do have exchange materials, it won't significantly change the amount of money that we're going to spend in this area, because there's so much of the effort goes into physically digging the hole in the street. The last item is a paving contract coming up, which is putting the street back in place. So there are a lot of other components besides just the pipe material itself that'll support these cost estimates.
Thank you. Regarding the power revenue, as you know, there's some concern about the motion that's being made by City Council to roll back the transfer and cap it at the 2010 amount. So have you given any thought to what the impact would be on DWP, in particular the power revenue, if in fact that passes? What will be our proposed operating expenses, and have you made any projections on that?
As part of the rate review, we did do those projections. It was in the Navigant report for the ratepayer advocate that we included in our materials to you. We looked at several scenarios, including rebating as much as possible, although there were some bond indenture limits that capped that out. also decreasing debt or increasing investment spending. That starts on page 78 of the Navigant report in our January 15th report to you. In section 3.5, and it goes through the history of the transfer and also does 3 separate scenarios on what the impact might be on rates in the long term.
And I would just add that we worked in conjunction with Fred's office on doing that, and it was our modelers that are doing it. So yeah, we have given a great deal of thought to it. Again, I always look towards Julie or whoever is sitting in the chair. I don't want to talk too much about it since it's very active litigation.
And that's why I pointed specifically to the document rather than trying to recite chapter and verse of what's in it.
Other questions or comments?
On the whole presentation, or?
Yeah, any part of it you wish.
Is he going to finish?
What?
If I could, yeah, we just have, I think,
I'm
one more
sorry.
slide, 2 more slides.
Next steps is all that's left.
I don't have to talk. So this next slide here is on the annual personnel resolution. Just think I want to point out that you really have not seen much changes in the way the authorized personnel resolution over the last 2 or 3 years. It's been maintained at roughly the 10,000 mark. We have been using a lot of interim position authorities the past few years. And as we go forward, 17, 18, beyond, we'll continue to revisit the amount with our operating organizations of using in-house labor versus what will be contracted out. Just gives you the amounts there of water fund, power fund, water system, and power system staffing. And then the very last slide was just, again, to thank you for your time and all of your attention and consideration. We request your approval of the fiscal year 16-17 final budget, and then we look forward to submitting this final budget to the mayor and the city council by the end of this month. Thank you very much.
Now I'll ask for any other questions or comments. Commissioner Funderburk.
Dr. Pickle?
Dr. Pickle.
Just a footnote on something I forgot to mention. Our memo on this will be available on the opa.lacity.org website later today. The commissioners got it and the board secretary got it, but we wanted to make sure that was available to the public.
We appreciate that. We know you have a number of caveats, so we will take those under submission and review them. Commissioner Funderburk.
Yeah.
Third try.
Just focus on some bigger picture here. Neil, you came before us a couple of months ago, and what ended up being Section 4 of the new rate package, I think on pages 150, 51, 52, 53, 54, around there, laid out the corporate performance standards and benchmarking and metrics. Is that how is that funded?
How is it funded?
Yeah.
Oh, it's funded within the budget. I mean, we have staff in the corporate performance section, part of FSO that are funded in the budget.
So I know, Jeff, you're working on this. Did you need additional staff in order to carry that out? Or are you using existing staff to do it?
So
we have it
this
in
budget
there.
actually does recommend 2 additional positions to
Right.
support the corporate performance and the reporting going forward.
Right.
The reason I mention it is President Obama and I think others did mention the concern that we had about, it was very comprehensive what was laid out before us, and being concerned about the not getting, having too much for the staff to do and not being able to meet it. Do you have the resources to do that, or do you need more people?
I think as we go forward, we did add some staff in there. This is a function that Marcy, quite honestly, tasked me with a number of years ago on the corporate performance. So we've done a lot of work with the operating units. We actually have some additional recommendations that we've been recently talking about on the performance management side. But I think it'll be slightly iterative, but I think with the additional staff and I think moving forward, it's not going to be huge numbers of people, but I think for this fiscal year, which is really the first year, and we'll see how it works out, we'll have a better idea. But I think we're good for 16, 17, and we'll have to look at it at the end of that fiscal year.
Because one of the concerns that we've heard is that the hiring rules and the civil service requirements act as obstacles sometimes to getting the right people in the right place. This seems like a really crucial thing to be doing, because I think that the council members and those in City Hall, as President Levine has said, it's very difficult to pass any rate increase or any increase in anything. And I think that one of the quid pro quos was that we would not be put in a straitjacket necessarily, but some type of tighter operating scheme. And it was very impressive what was laid out.
Right.
I just am concerned that you have the resources to follow it up, and if you don't, please speak up early, because I for one am think that the benchmarking, corporate performance standards, I've asked about it from the first meeting that I had. You might remember I wanted to and Commissioner Fleming, so generous with his time in dealing with benchmarking of other issues that were external to DWP and related with labor management issues.
And I would just say, again, I'd like, Dr. Pickle, in conjunction with our corporate performance staff, we are actually doing the next phase of benchmarking now. We've had meetings going on these last couple of weeks working on that, so we are doing it as we speak, and that's the same staff, the corporate performance staff. Again, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's going to be something that we're going to have to look at. And we'll see how tough it is once we get into the fiscal year. I believe we come to the board. The first reporting is in January.
It'll be coming with the new calendar year, I should say. We'll
Right.
report to the RPA, and then we'll have a report to this body. I think it's January or February.
I think it's January of 2017. So that'll be when we'll have a much better idea, because you don't really know till you really do it. We have a lot of those reports. We've worked very hard with the operating organizations to get those reports together on the metrics that we pass with this board prior to the rate package. But we feel comfortable with the staffing we have right now, and we'll see as we go through the first process.
Because it's not just the data collection, it's there's a statutory, as you know, requirement, a 5-step process that we must go through. We collect the data, we analyze it, we identify corrective action or remedy, and then we do follow-up. This is kind of why we have great people like you, Marty, running our shop, because you're about trying to make things efficient. So I just want to make sure that you please come back to us. The other thing is one of the concerns, we've talked about contracting, okay? And, are you going to need, is there contract support that's going to hold up the process? Because it's got to go to City Hall, it's got to go through 10 different steps, much as Marcy's concerned about, that's going to hold up this process because we don't have any contractors to do what we need, or maybe Commissioner Noonan might think that we're not being, competitive with our contracting, but is that going to hold up this?
The RPA budget is ultimately reimbursed. The amount spent by the RPA is ultimately reimbursed by DWP. And Neil anticipates thoughtfully what my budget might be, and that's last year's spending, which is not quite done yet, is anticipated in the next fiscal year. We're not anticipating adding staff until we go through this process once. But we're leading the contracting on the benchmarking component, building on work that was done during the rate case.
So are those contracts, do we have to wait for an RFP to go out, or are we using existing contracts that we have?
Extending existing.
Right.
I don't mean the RPA, I'm talking about us.
We're actually using the contractor that the RPA has. It's a joint project that we're doing with Dr. Pickle's office.
We're leading the contracting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, DWP will have to reimburse that.
We look forward to that.
And does that come out of your budget?
That comes out of my budget.
Which
So we don't have any budget for that ourselves?
No, we reimburse them.
But that's, the RPA gets money anyway. It gets the statutorily 1/4% of revenues, right?
No, we've been budgeted in excess of that minimum requirement.
Okay.
And those funds are being used in this case to support this project because we think the benchmarking components are so important. And they're core to what we've been recommending.
And I would just say that part of this is that we were able to get these contractors in place much faster because of the arrangement that was there and through Dr. Pickle's office, so.
It never seemed fast.
It never seems faster, yeah, I shouldn't say fast.
A couple things on, a couple other things. On page 22, there's a reference to the economic development programs, and I have concerns that we don't have a strategic plan in economic development. And I'd like to make sure that before we start spending money on it, there's a strategic plan for it. So I don't know if you factored that in or whether you plan on spending it without a strategic plan or what.
So in terms of the budgetary request, there are some additional resources for economic development and the Office of Sustainability overall. The requests for staff and for funding right now are reflected in the proposed budget for 16-17. You know, the staff are working within Office of Sustainability, and Nancy can speak this much better than I can, in terms of their overall strategies and such. We've had some discussions, myself and my staff, with economic development on some of the programs they're looking to develop. So it seems like they still have some time to put these things into place. I think that we'll have resources there. It's not a significant increase in resources per se in terms of the number of positions. It's a relatively small office, but it's growing from, you know, just a couple of positions, frankly, a couple of staff, to a little bit more than that. It's
How many more are we adding? I don't understand what we need the people for if we don't have a plan. I'm not talking about sustainability. I'm talking about economic development.
Okay, I stand corrected. It's the Office of Sustainability, Economic Development. It's not economic development staffing that's increasing. It's actually conservation staffing in the overall office.
Okay, I understand what they're doing.
My apologies.
So that leads me to the last thing, which is I want to make sure that the Commission's commitment to equity in all senses of the word is expressed in writing somewhere. When I see some, I mean, you obviously can't change this PowerPoint, but I didn't see it, and I would like to, I know you have it in the opening narrative for the mayor's directive, but there are things that I think need to be looked at. They need to be examined through the equity metrics. There needs to be some type of funding stream identified for the equity metrics, and Jeff, I hope we can follow up on that in the next couple months, so that we know that it can be acted on, and the board can get the reports and the information that they need timely, and not hear that, oh, well, we don't have enough staff to do this, because that's not a good reason not to do something. A good reason not to do something is for it to be prioritized, et cetera. Okay, so I just want to make sure the resources are there. One, to support the overall corporate benchmarking that we have that encompasses all the different groups, and then the sub-element of equity, I'd like to see that, to make sure that that's expressed in writing at some presentation that we have when you come back to us.
We'll mark that down and we'll discuss it with Nancy. I had seen an earlier version, I think a draft version of the equity metrics themselves, and we have discussed that with corporate performance as well, but we'll make sure to get back to you.
Thanks.
Other comments or questions? Are we ready for a vote on these items? Is there a motion to approve item 25?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. It's approved. Is there a motion to approve item 26?
So moved.
Second. Those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
That's approved. Thank you very much for a very good job.
Thank you.
We move to item 27, authorization to issue up to $225 million of power system revenue bonds under resolution numbers 4912 and 4913.
So, one thing, Peter Wynn is going to hand out. I know in the last board meeting, or I apologize, I wasn't here, but talked about that we did receive an upgrade on the power, where we were upgraded by Moody's. We went from AA2 to AA3. We also had Fitch revised the outlook from stable to positive. So that was two very positive things that, again, are tied, I think, to the rate structure and what we put in place. In the one-page presentation here that I think Peter handed out, go to the next page here so everybody can see it, Peter. There you go. So when we got those ratings, we went for $275 million, which was the previous bonds that were authorized. This is the subsequent 225. But similar to what we got on the power side, we had true interest costs of 3.26%, which is the lowest we know of in 15 years. Could be the lowest DWP. Peter doesn't want to go back to 1910, the check, but and when you also compare it against the credit spread, so that is, where are we compared to the AAA municipal market data curve? We were 6 basis points, very similar to the power side. So the financial markets are responding to the rate structure. They're responding again to what your board has taken, what City Council, with the mayor, all of the City of Los Angeles in the rate structure that we have, and that we are moving forward on all of the different things we have to do on the power side. And just the last one that is down there, we did a refinancing which had $11 million in net present value for the power. You put that in conjunction with the 74 million we got on the water in the previous issue, which was the previous month. So you had over $85 million of net present value savings that's happened in the last month. And again, I think it's really tremendous to I think really the rate structure to what the finance team has done. Peter and Mario drive a hard bargain, to say the least. I hear it over and over again from all of the underwriters. So this is to authorize us for an additional $225 million, which will be our fiscal year total that we need to fund Mike and the rest of the power system for the capital infrastructure.
Very impressive. Comments, questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. It's approved. Thank you, and congratulations. Contract number 744, item 28, services for asphalt, concrete, and concrete pavement trench resurfacing with Pavco Construction, Inc.
Okay, this is a resurfacing contract for basically for our mainline replacement program that we've significantly increased for over the next 3 years. Also, we've increased service installations, a lot of building being done in the city, and this will support those activities.
Do commissioners want to hear a presentation, or do they want to ask questions?
I have some questions.
Commissioner Noonan.
Okay. I like the fact that we have a new entity who's been awarded this contract. However, I'm just curious, we've been working with HDP Inc. since 2012. Why did they not offer a bid?
They did. The company was sold this year, and so SE Pipe it bought HPD.
Yeah. Okay, got it. And then it seemed like 34 solicitations were received. However, we only received 4 bids. Was there feedback as to why there weren't more bidders?
Great.
Horner again. No, I don't know on that why we didn't get more bidders. These are some of the major players out there that did bid, and Pavco has been with us before. They've had the contract several years ago, but as far as I know, these are the major players out there that are doing it. It's sort of specialized work, doing trench type repaving. The gas company uses it, we use it, all underground utilities, but it's fairly specialized.
I think it's important, just from a procurement standpoint, to try and get information as to if there were 34 entities looking into bidding, why only 4 did. So.
Well,
Can I come? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Keith. Go ahead.
I was going to say one thing, that we have a lot of resurfacing, and we've increased. We're going to double our pipe installation over the next 3 years in comparison to what we did last year. So unless you have a really big outfit with a lot of equipment, you couldn't meet the need. We have 27 mainline crews paving every day. So a paving company needs to have similar resources in numbers to be able to keep up. And in the past, we found companies have bid this type contract and not able to keep up and not able to keep the contract. We have pretty aggressive goals, and I think that's the biggest part of it. The companies that responded were really large paving companies.
And one thing I want to add to that is that I don't think there's actually even 34 big paving companies out there. I think what you see in a lot of these bids is that a lot of potential subs, they actually respond and inquire about the bid because they're looking for how they might plug into as being a subcontractor. And so a lot of times you'll have a large number of people who look at the bid, but they aren't actually ones that we'd expect to bid. They're looking for opportunities to plug in and take a role in it. So.
Okay, and just for comparison's sake, what is the Bureau of Street Services budget to repave city streets? Because $87 million seems like a lot, but I understand that we are really working on fixing our infrastructure. But just for cross-comparison's sake, can you speak to that?
I don't know. Do you know what their actual budget is? I know that they have a certain number of miles of street that they do every year. And we check with them. They're not available to do this work. If there's an emergency, they might fill in.
Right.
But
They do some of our emergency blowout work, and that's, but trench resurfacing is a specialty, and we've had pilots, I guess 4 or 5 years ago, that we ran a pilot with street services to do some trenching work, and they weren't able to, even after buying all of the equipment, specialized equipment, they weren't able to keep up with the crews, even at a pilot stage. And for what their budget is, I think that they, like Marty says, they look at more in how many miles that they're going to do in
because they divide their work up by so many miles per council district typically. And one thing about this, and it's a large dollar total. So when you look at it, it's really budgeted at $21 to $25 million per year. And our actual commitment here is a portion of that first year. The $87 million is 125% of what we estimate. So that's kind of an extended range in case we get more done than what we think. The actual projected work level is about $70 million. It's similar to the same contract amount we have now, except we haven't used all of it because we haven't gotten to the level of contract we have now. Is a couple years ago we thought we'd be where we're going to. So it's the same amount of money we've had on the budget to use, and again, but we only spend as we can use it. So the history in this is that it's got a provision for us to exceed what we expect we're going to need, but we'll only pay for the amount that we actually get.
Yeah, I think you may have just answered the last question that I have, and forgive me, I'm drawing a blank. I'm hoping that my fellow commissioners can help me out. What is it called when we team up with City Hall and other city institutions to contract, like for paper, for example?
Piggybacking?
Yeah. Have we not considered doing that with the Bureau of Street Services, or is it that it's such a different work that it wouldn't make sense?
They have all their own crews, I think, right?
I don't think they contract any resurfacing. They do. That's basically their basic work is resurfacing the street. Bureau of Street Services, so they don't contract out, if any, very little. They don't even have the ability to do all of the work that we contracted them to do. They do blowout work, which are big leaks. Right now, we probably have about 100 backlog for them that they're not able to keep up with. just due to attrition and due to other activities that they use their resources for. I think it's probably over 100. I just looked at it, about 120 backlog jobs for us now.
One of the reasons that it's important for us to be able to pave is that after a pipeline break or even say an installation, we'll put in temporary backfill, and that's that kind of softer material that if it's there a while, you drive down the road and there's little bumps and you wonder why this trench is sloughing, and that's temporary. And so it's important for us to have a contractor who will actually go and make the street whole and return the driving surface to what it should be. So that's because, as Keith said, there's already a backlog of other work. We want to have someone who's a paving contractor who can perform to the city standards and get in there as quickly as possible, so we don't create an issue in the streets for drivers.
I'd like to piggyback on Commissioner Noonan's question and just raise a point, and I don't want to prolong this, and I'm very mindful of the time, but I've wondered a lot, and Commissioner Noonan's question on this one reminded me. I don't know the extent to which we and the other particularly major city departments coordinate with each other on mutual procurements or piggybacking or whatever it's called. I mean, I know that we in airport and port have a lot of overlapping requirements, whether it's as mundane as paper or paper clips or as significant as concrete. And again, I'm not sure this is the time for a detailed conversation on it, but I do wonder from the perspective of the city overall, whether or not there is some coordination among the different agencies when we are doing the same things, purchasing the same things.
Yeah, I would defer to purchasing, and maybe they'd like to have a chance to really look at the opportunities there. I know as far as the work goes that Keith's folks coordinate closely with street services to make sure that we're working in concert.
Right. And there are some contracts. Our uniform contract is a piggyback from a city contract, a 10-year city contract for uniforms. We piggybacked with them a couple of years ago, and it works out great in the areas where we can,
Lou Feldmeyer, Supply Chain Services. We do a number of cooperative purchases with general services, airports, harbor. We'll be bringing a stationary contract probably in the next year, some of the fleet stuff.
Good, okay.
But we do look at it.
That's reassuring.
We try to aggregate that spend.
Good, good. Other questions or comments on item 28? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. It's approved. Thank you. Okay, mindful of the time, as I mentioned, we'll move to the water systems report for December.
I will be very brief unless there's any questions on the report. But Commissioner Noonan brought up a question earlier about the looking at plastic pipe and this and that. I want to let you know that on the 25th of this month, we are having a plastic pipe workshop here. It's being hosted by the Water Research Foundation. They are an independent foundation that does research for the entire water industry in America, and we sought their assistance in the evaluation of plastic pipe alternatives. I know that they are bringing New York, Anchorage, and Honolulu in as agencies to discuss plastic pipe use. Those agencies have extensive experience with plastic pipe, and then the follow-up report from that presentation to the board will be done at the June 7th meeting. So we are having an actual hearing and workshop here on the 25th.
Will details on those invitations be forwarded to us?
Yes, I'll let you know the details. So if you're interested in going, you're more than welcome to come. So, and Water Research Foundation has been doing a lot of work on this in the background leading up to this, and then they're bringing in these folks for this workshop.
I think that's fantastic. Thank you for following up in that regard.
That's the only report I have.
Okay, any other questions? Urban Water Management Plan.
I will introduce this. So Dave Pettyjohn and Delon Kwan, you recognize both of them in our Water Resources Division. They are, at the last meeting, we talked about the Urban Water Management Plan coming forward, and there was a question about having a chance for the board to hear the key parts of the plan without having to vote at that time on it. So we do have some time before this is due, July 1st, to the state of California. We wanted to present very briefly the highlights of this report report. It's an 800-page report. I don't know, Delon brought a copy with him. We decided not to send you each an 800-page report, but we do have a CD available, and we do have a brief presentation in your packets that hits the highlights. But this is to give you an opportunity to know what we have planned for, and if you have any comments or anything you'd like changed, to do that. Our plan would be to bring this back at the next meeting for approval, but not to vote on anything today.
Well, can you bring it back to the next meeting? In other words, we should take a look at it now, and so that we're...
Right, so the idea was to give you an opportunity to look at this without telling you it was the last
Good.
chance to vote on it, so. So take it away, Dave.
We will do that. With that, council? Or do you want to make the...
we need this, yeah.
You want to go ahead and explain?
The request was to present before we had to vote.
You will do the brief presentation. Okay, I was skipping ahead.
Well, thank you, President Levine, Commissioners. This is, as Marty said, it's going to be an info item. We're going to talk about the state law requirements and some key elements of the document. And following the presentation, we're going to incorporate any input you might have, and then we'll finalize the document and bring it back for your adoption at your next board meeting. So what is the Urban Water Management Plan? It's the document that lays out the city's long-term plan for water resource management, essentially ensuring that there's going to be adequate supplies to meet all future demands in the city under various climate scenarios. And shown here are a few of the topics we're going to go over in the presentation today. A little background, the Urban Water Management Planning Act was adopted by the state legislature to require a minimum level of resource assessments and future planning by water suppliers. The act requires us to file an update every 5 years with the state, which we've been doing every year since 1985. And completing this every 5 years gives your board an opportunity to see how we're progressing toward the goals we've set for ourselves and adjust these goals as conditions may change. And compliance with the act is a requirement that the state has for us to be eligible for state grants and loans. Shown here is a listing of our public outreach efforts. We began last November with our public outreach, and since that time we've had 8 different public meetings, after which we've incorporated the input we received and we finalized the draft that we're presenting you today. This slide summarizes the major accomplishments in this outreach process. Important to remember that the code only requires us to hold 1 public hearing, and you can see that we've done well above what the code requires. And we did this to ensure that the public and the stakeholders had an adequate chance to engage in the process. The remaining items left to accomplish is your board's approval and subsequent submission to the state. So what's contained in the Urban Water Management Plan? It contains a water demand forecast, conditions analysis of our existing and planned water supply sources, our water use efficiency and conservation goals, an assessment of our water supply reliability under average, single dry, and multi-dry year hydrologic scenarios, a water shortage contingency analysis, and we've also voluntarily included the impacts of climate change, our water energy nexus analysis that shows how much energy each source requires, and then an associated greenhouse gas emissions with all of our water supplies. So it's important to know that the Urban Water Management Plan, it's not a standalone document. It's built on a number of individual planning efforts that the water system has completed, all of which underwent separate public outreach covering recycled water, stormwater capture, water conservation, water loss control, and groundwater. And the individual plans that you see here also help to guide policymakers in developing the Mayor's Executive Directive 5 and the City Sustainability Plan. These mayoral directives establish the water efficiency and local supply development goals that the Urban Water Management Plan is based on. So our preparation of the plan has been a collaborative process in which we utilized the city's One Water approach. To accomplish this, we coordinated with the city's One Water 2040 LA plan initiative, through which we coordinated with other city departments to develop collaborative opportunities. Additionally, we're a participating agency in the Greater Los Angeles County Integrated Regional Water Management Planning process. That's designed to improve and enhance water supply reliability, surface water quality, flood protection, habitat conservation, and recreational access to the public. And finally, we're also a Met member agency, and we participated in updating Metropolitan's Integrated Resources Planning and their Regional Urban Water Management Plan. And the input from both those plans fed into our water management plan as well. So in response to the historic drought conditions, the mayor has taken both near-term and long-term actions. The mayor's Sustainable City Plan calls for additional GPCD reductions through the year 2035, calls for a 50% reduction in purchased imported water by 2025, and calls for us to source 50% of our water locally by 2035. And at the state level, the governor issued his executive order, which imposed statewide conservation measures. And all of these goals and mandates, both at the local and the state level, have been incorporated into the Urban Water Management Plan. So to accomplish these goals, our local supply program is based on a capture, conserve, reuse strategy. And shown on your upper left is additional recycled water from our groundwater replenishment project and stormwater capture, both of which recharge the San Fernando groundwater basin. Additional conservation programs shown on the right are also continue to offset potable demands. However, as you can see, addressing the contamination issues in the San Fernando basin is going to be key to the success of the local supply program. And I'm going to go over each of these programs with you in the next few slides. So first, our conservation program. It's a multifaceted program that covers a wide range of behavioral change and hardware-based conservation savings strategies, which you see here. And the goal of the program is to achieve between 110,000 acre-feet and 144,000 acre-feet a year of additional conservation savings by the year 2040. From the Recycled Water Master Plan, we incorporated recommendations to further develop non-potable reuse, commonly referred to as Purple Pipe Project, shown on the left, and also our indirect potable reuse project, which Marty talked about earlier, and that's advanced treatment of recycled water and recharge into our San Fernando Basin. That's shown on the right. And the goal of the Recycled Water Program is an additional 75,400 acre-feet a year of water by 2024. Our Stormwater Capture Master Plan identified additional future stormwater capture potential to double or even triple the amount of current capture in the city, and that would be an increase of between 68,000 acre-feet a year and 114,000 acre-feet a year. And as mentioned, our groundwater basin remediation is going to be critical to restoring the beneficial use of the city's existing water rights in the San Fernando Basin and to augmenting those rights by spreading recycled water or stormwater. And the remediation project is estimated to be operational by the year 2021. Enhancing the reliability of the LA Aqueduct is going to be key, and the table on the bottom right shows the projected LA Aqueduct deliveries under average and dry hydrologic scenarios, ranging from a low of about 32,000 acre-feet in dry years to a little under 300,000 acre-feet in average years. So the next two slides are essentially the guts of the Urban Water Management Plan results, and I'm going to go over this in a little more detail. So this slide shows the built-up of the various slides to meet projected demands, supplies to meet projected demands, assuming average hydrologic conditions through the year 2040. So the projected demands from our model before additional conservation savings is expected to increase to about 675,000 acre-feet per year, as based on a forecast by the Southern California Association of Governments. But when we account for the mayor's sustainable city plan goals for GPCD reduction in purchased and imported water, our demands get reduced to about 570,000 acre-feet a year by 2040, shown here as the mayor's goal. So this means that we're going to need to achieve a minimum amount of additional conservation, shown in green. So looking at a buildup of supplies to meet the mayor's goal, we start with our core supplies from the LA Aqueduct, shown here in blue, and that's close to about 300,000 acre-feet a year. Next is groundwater, shown in orange, which is expected to take up a large part of our portfolio. And then recycled water supplies. These are our non-potable purple pipe projects, shown in purple. And then the remaining supplies necessary to get to the mayor's goal are going to be made up with purchased imported water supplies from the Metropolitan Water District. So looking at a snapshot of the end of the urban water management planning period in 2040, shown here are three pie charts illustrating supply-demand balances. The pie chart on the left is the most recent 5-year annual average, with MWD making up about 57% of our supplies. Our aqueduct at about 29, and local supplies make up about 14. The middle pie shows where we want to be if we're successful with the Urban Water Management Plan in 2040 under average hydrologic conditions. And as you can see, our local supplies are going to make up about 47% of the total. Our met purchases, however, are going to be reduced to about 11%, which is about an 80% reduction over our recent 5-year average. And if you include the 118,000 acre-feet of historical conservation we've achieved, the total supplies our total local supplies are going to make up more than half of the city supplies in normal years. So what that means is that the mayor's GPCD goals, his MWD reduction goals for purchased water, and his source local water goals will all be achieved in normal years under the Urban Water Management Plan. The pie chart on the upper right shows dry year conditions. When the LA Aqueduct deliveries are significantly reduced, local supplies are still going to combine to make up about 49% of our supplies. and MWD purchases are going to be about 44%, but that compares pretty favorably to what we've seen just recently. In the recent dry year, we've bought over 70% of our water in a dry year from Metropolitan. So I'd like to conclude by summarizing the 4 common themes of the public comments that we received from our outreach efforts. The top concern expressed to us was the risk to future reliability if we're not successful in implementing our local supply goals. So we've tried to address this concern by incorporating into the plan as a foundation for those goals the Mayor's Executive Directive 5 and the Sustainable City Plan goals. And we've also got a plan to bring this back to you every 5 years for an update and show you how we're progressing toward those plans so that if we're not reaching those goals, we can make adjustments. Second concern, of course, was the contamination in the San Fernando Basin, and we do agree with this concern. And we've incorporated the remediation of that basin as a key to restoring the city's use of its full water rights in the basin, as well as accessing supplies in the basin from our groundwater replenishment project and our stormwater capture projects. The third concern was the adequacy of our local supply plans. To address this, each component of the Urban Water Management Plan's local supply development plan has gone through extensive prior studies. For example, we have a recycled water master plan that we've prepared, a stormwater capture master plan. We're preparing a conservation potential study, and each of these has had stakeholder input. The last concern expressed was with respect to the cost associated with the plan. And the recent 5-year rate action that your board took included funding for the mayor's local supply development goals in that rate increase, and those are identified in the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan. However, to minimize the cost for our ratepayers, we're still going to continue to aggressively pursue the PRPs in the San Fernando Valley. Also, we're going to continue to pursue grant funding opportunities and loans, things like Prop 1, and funding partnerships we've been very successful at doing, especially in our stormwater capture program. So a complete listing of all the public comments that we've received, and our response to those comments are in Appendix D in the plan, and you'll see a pretty extensive list of comments and responses. So next steps, first we're going to incorporate any input we receive from your board and update the draft, and then we're going to come back to your board at your next board meeting to adopt the plan, and following this we'll submit the plan to the state, and then it'll be made, the final plan will be made available to the public. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Barat.
Mindful of the time, I will be very brief. First of all, thank you for the presentation, and I'm really pleased that you have listed here the importance of the groundwater remediation in the San Fernando Basin. That is really critical. But I think that we need more priority on stormwater capture. Every time it rains, people are saying, you know, it goes to the ocean. I mean, this is a major concern all over. And the other thing is more priority on recycling. I think we need, I don't think the department has shown a real priority in recycling. You know, you look at other cities and you look at other countries where this is a major priority. I think that we need to focus on that, how we can more effectively recycle water and the use of gray water. I think this needs to be a major policy and priority of the department.
Thank you for that. Just in response, especially on the stormwater capture, we do have a range of stormwater capture potential. We plan to achieve a minimum of 68,000 acre-feet, and that 68,000 acre-feet is related in that stormwater capture master plan to specific achievable projects that we know of and we have the money to invest in. Now, we do believe there's more potential than that. Some of that is going to depend on certain things we'd like to do, but you know, situations will have to arise where we can. There are a couple of gravel pits in the San Fernando Valley that we're interested in purchasing. The 114,000 acre-feet of stormwater capture assumes that we'll be able to procure those gravel pits and turn them into spreading basins. So there is more that we can do if the situations arise, and if they do, we're going to continue to pursue funding partnerships and partners to do more than the 68,000. So
I'm glad to hear that.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to thank Dave and Dewan. I think just immense and prodigious work that you've done in terms of And Dave, I wish you would stay. And I know you have no plans on immediately leaving, but I guess if we can convince you to possibly delay your retirement a little, and continue to train, people like Delon and Penny and the other people in your group. I've had just a very intellectually satisfying time of working with you and your staff, and I've learned a lot. I think that it's important going forward to somehow try to get into, I just want to comment on the last meeting. I brought up the fact that we may have, some catastrophic event and trying to price it into resilience and reliability of our system. Somebody chimed in, well, there's FEMA. Well, FEMA's not going to pay to put the businesses back in businesses if they're out of business for 3 months. Well, those are our customers. So I don't buy FEMA, because FEMA only gets us part of the way. It doesn't give us damage to the economy, and there has to be a price that we are either paying or not paying or foregoing paying, or some pricing model that can be constructed to try to build in redundancy and resilience into the system, justified so the ratepayers understand we're making the investment wisely. But I don't buy this kind of one-off comparison to net water. I don't buy it. Climate change, there are too many other factors that come into sustainability, resilience. Nancy's done a phenomenal job in the time she's been here. You've done a great job. Marty's done a great job. I hope you can keep it up, but when you come back to us, try to incorporate something that captures that the thought of committing additional resources wisely to making sure that our system can survive, so that we're able to take care of our ratepayers and the businesses and residents in the area.
That's a very good point. And imported water supplies that are coming from hundreds of miles away and cross various fault lines are subject to catastrophic failure at times. And I think it is very prudent that the city is really starting down the road to develop new local water supplies and try to make investments in those. And we'll try to address that when we come back.
Thanks. Other questions, other comments? Thank you very much. We'll look forward to to dealing with this the next meeting, I believe.
Thank you.
Council?
The board shall recess into closed session. The board shall publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member present thereon, in accordance with Section 54957.1 of the California Government Code.
We will recess into closed session.